Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to Reconnected. I am here with a fairly new friend of mine, Will Dodson. I had him on the show last week, and I hope a lot of you have seen that video that we put up now because I would love it if you had any questions that came up after viewing that to be able to ask Will tonight because man, oh man, he is a Tobe Hooper expert, and he's got a lot of other knowledge, and he would be more than happy to share. And let's get into it. Will, how are we doing today?
I'm doing good. Yeah, thanks for having me again. I'm really excited to be here and really enjoyed the Tobe Hooper interview. Already got some good comments and saw it circulating around on the social media metasphere. But I'm also excited to kind of diversify a little bit, talk about some other films and filmmakers. So yeah, let's have at it.
Nice. We already are getting some people shuffle in. So again, if you saw anything last Friday about Tobe and you want to know some more, Will is literally the expert on Tobe Hooper. So please just get those questions. We'll get to them as soon as we can. Got a lot to talk about tonight. There have been, we knew this week was going to be heavy. We got Arrow announcements. We got Vinegar Syndrome and all their partner label announcements. We've got a smattering of some others. And on top of that, we got some redefining reasons to discuss physical media this week, as HBO Max has suddenly deleted, I think it's 6 or 8 titles or something like that off of their service, which were HBO Max originals. So where else would they go? Any thoughts from you on them deleting those?
Well, there's all the hubbub going on about Batgirl being canceled, and you got to feel for all the people involved on production when something gets canceled so close to completion. But there's also been some controversy over the fact that Netflix is re-editing episodes of Stranger Things, which I'm mildly concerned about. I haven't seen I was waiting to watch the last season with my daughter, and now I'm not even sure it's artistically viable.
Right.
But it goes to a lot of the conversations we have about the importance of physical media for archiving and preserving films and filmmakers, because streaming services, there's no guarantee they're going to keep stuff once licenses expire for their original content. They can shelve it for tax purposes, as we've seen with the merger or acquisition, I guess, of what is it, Discovery Plus.
Right.
Kind of an ironic name for a company since they're hiding everything.
Really odd to put their hat on Discovery Plus, it seems like, as well. It seems odd to put all of your bets behind that. I don't know. Yeah, the whole situation is sad, and the 2 films that were canceled with Batgirl and Scoob, not only for the stars that were potentially going to have life-changing roles, but I mean the amount of crew that works on these films that are now not going to have exposure, that are not going to have the ability to have this on their resume, that aren't going to have something to show their kids. I know for a lot of people that work on a movie like Scoob, that's a big deal for them, and now that is just taken from them, and they had no say in it. So the only things that are guaranteed are things that you physically hold in your hand. So it shows that this is all that much more important, and I hope that we see some sort of resurgence again. And we keep getting these random things that cause resurgences, and I love that, but it just never seems enough to get all of society behind it again. But I don't know that we'll ever get that sort of resurgence again.
Yeah, man, well, keeps getting hot. People are going to have to stay inside. They're going to need something to do.
That is very, very true. So speaking of that, you got anything new that you want to show to everybody? See what you got picked up here recently?
Oh, yeah, I had a couple things come in. Maybe some I'll pilot. Some of these are kind of older releases that I'm just kind of catching up with. Let's see. One I'll mention. I know there's some Westerns that got announced today that we'll probably talk about, but I just picked up, this is the Mill Creek release of the 12-pack of Randolph Scott films. And I mainly got this because I think all 7 of the films he made with the director Bud Budiker are on there. They all really deserve remastered high definition,
Right.
maybe even some 4K releases. This isn't that, but it's the best we have for now. Still no high definition, even Blu-ray release of 7 Men from Now, which is the best movie with Randall Scott and Bud Buttigieg. Oh yeah, that's not in here. So not all of his Bud Buttigieg, but most of them. Let's see. One I want to talk about later when we get into some announcements. But let's see. I got a Walter Hill film, Crossroads.
Nice.
With Ralph Macchio. Pretty excited about that. In a box set, this is an older release, came out a few years ago from Kino, but I always like mentioning this. I always teach at least one of her films in my general intro film appreciation class, and that's the Ida Lupino box set. She was a real pioneer as an actress and a director. I think at one point she and Dorothy Arzner were the only women in the Directors Guild. But she was also a pioneer in independent filmmaking. And here's a strange factoid. She was one of the innovators of product placement in movies as a way to raise money for independent productions.
Interesting.
So we have her to thank for the, perfectly placed bottles of Coke and Tostitos and whatnot that we see today, among some others. But so I'm pretty excited about that set. It's got some great films in it. The Bigamist, The Hitchhiker, which is probably our best known noir film.
Nice.
Yeah.
I got some in this week. These are in for review from Imprint. They actually sent me these to share with the channel.
Oh, nice.
First one, we got Barabbas, and this is 1961, and this is a pretty decent looking disc. It's got 1080p high def presentation, an audio commentary by Barry Forshaw and Kim Newman from this year. And then Richard Fleischer looking back, an interview with the Hollywood director, and then film historian Sheldon Hall on Barabbas, and that's from this year. So lots of good stuff on this one, and again, Imprint just killing it with what they're putting out.
I love Richard Fleischer. He is a director who deserves a lot more exposure. Partly, I think people don't really pay attention to his career because he did so many different genres of film. He's not really known.
Right.
For a particular one. One of my favorites is a sort of daytime noir heist film called Violent Saturday with Lee Marvin in just full villain mode, just nasty.
Nice.
Bank heist movie. But, he did 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I mean, so many great movies. I haven't seen Barabbas. I don't want to spoil the end, but it's sad.
I've heard that. The next one is another director that I really like, and they seem to get really, really heavy in the directors for the month of July. Ken Russell film of horror. And this one, we got an audio. Look at that. Look at that. Audio commentary by Alexandra Heller Nicholas and Josh Nelson on this from this year. There's an interview with actress Teresa Russell from this year, which that's kind of a pretty big deal. And then interview with Ginger Lynn Allen, which is exciting. And then interview with the writer Deborah Dalton, X-rated auteur Bruce LaBruce on Ken Russell's horror, Legitimate and Illegitimate Women in Ken Russell's Horror, a video essay by Kat Ellinger, which was the first thing that made me go, I got to get this to see what Kat says on that. And this one, for those that don't know, is from 1991. So it's a fairly modern Ken Russell compared to a lot of the stuff that people know. And I saw that years ago and can't wait to see that again.
Yeah, I think I saw that late night on Skinamax when I was about 14 years old. Wasn't quite well at my adolescent self was a little disappointed. It wasn't like that. But I thought, but great. It really is a great film. I'm so glad it's going to get rediscovered. And I mean, anytime you can get a Ken Russell film, you should at least see it. So
at least once, yeah. Next one is Andy Garcia, in Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. This is a pretty unique movie. This one's from 1995. Not one that a lot of people nowadays have been talking about. So I'm again, just like horror, I'm really glad this one's out there ripe for rediscovery. This one's got Things to Write in Denver When You're Dead, an interview with the screenwriter Scott Rosenberg. Things to Direct in Denver When You're Dead, interview with the director Gary Fleeter, and then Things to Perform in Denver When You're Dead, interview with actor Andy Garcia, a modern interview with Andy Garcia on this film, which that's pretty damn cool. And then also an interview with the production designer. That's kind of a lot to get for something like this that, you know, has not been getting a lot of attention lately. But the biggest one this month, box set of Jim Sheridan films. 4 Irish films, My Left Foot, The Field, In the Name of the Father, and The Boxer. And obviously, some of these are titles that people know very well, especially this one had got, I think it's a Shout Select release, In the Name of the Father. And then The Boxer also had a Shout Select release, I believe. But to get all these together, that's a really cool set for them.
And another director that you know, had a big moment in the early mid '90s who really needs to be rediscovered.
Yeah.
So this is an excellent opportunity. I really love The Boxer. I'm a big fan of that film.
The Boxer is great. Gosh, another one that's been years since I've seen it. So Daniel Day-Lewis, just obviously amazing, and at this point seems to be retired, but we'll see if he ever comes back. That would be swell.
So yeah.
Let's go through who all is here before we start going through the announcements. What's going on, Sardis? He says, welcome to Will.
Oh, hey, thanks.
Alyssa, how we doing? And Christian's Hobby Blog says, yay, Will. What's going on?
Big fan of Christian's Hobby Blog. It's had me on before.
Jeff, what's going on? Evening. Sardis wanted to share that he watched the UT at Austin Roundtable on Hooper you guys did.
Oh, awesome. Thanks. Glad you got to check that out. A lot of great interviews in there. Joe Bob Briggs, of course, was great. Scout Tafoya, Stan Geezy, Julius Banzon, my friend Chris Roper. It was such a fun talk.
Once again, that roundtable is in the description below tonight. So if you want to save that for later, make sure you open that in a new tab and go back to it after this show. Terry, what's going on? Flickering Waves. Eric is here. Sardis just spent $200 on partner labels at Vinegar Syndrome. We'll talk about those a lot tonight. Christian's Hobby Blog wants Killer Condom on Blu-ray. I don't know that one.
Oh, yeah, you got to check that out. Trauma licensed. So a recurring theme for Christian's Hobby Blog is please Vinegar Syndrome, since they have that, they get a lot of those trauma licensed releases. So
right.
It's a great film based on a comic book, and it's about mid '90s, and it's about really it's a pretty enlightened for its time, you know, defense, I guess, of queer identities, specifically in this story, gay men, and the film is about a moralizing group that's trying to stamp out sin using killer condoms.
Sounds like a perfect pairing for that what is Visual Vengeance release of LA Age Jabber that's about to come out.
Oh, absolutely. I got my pre-order at Grindhouse for that one.
Nice. Hilton wanted to point out that Peacemaker is coming out on Blue. Has that been confirmed for the US? Because I know it got confirmed for Canada. I've not heard for sure that it's coming to the US. Let me know if somebody else has seen that here. Yeah, I really do hope Netflix does the same with Sandman. I don't understand some of these places. Like, obviously, they want to get subscribers in to watch their stuff. But if you're not going to get people that are collecting physical media, just release something and make some money. That's better than no dollars.
Yeah, that's why I really like what Shudder does by, you know, putting out several of their titles.
And at least that way they give themselves an exclusive. They get it for like 4 or 5 months before it comes out on Blue. That's perfect. I'm totally fine with that.
Sure.
Lissa wanted to share she just watched Life Force last weekend, one of my favorite Tobe Hooper directed movies. Cam's here. What's going on, Cam? John is probably working as he listens. What's up, John? Dude McMahon, you are at the live stream. Nice. Happy you're here. Christian says, I watched One-Eyed Jacks recently. It's a new favorite Western of mine. Jeff says, The Hitchhiker. That's one of his favorite noirs. And Dave's here. What's going on, Dave? Let's see. Are we in the golden age of film collecting? I say yes. Maybe.
You did that interview a couple weeks ago with, was his name Adam from Third
Window?
Third Window. I liked his answer to that question. Like, yes and no, right? That the margins are so difficult for eternal profit producing high-end physical media.
Right.
But it certainly is a rabid collecting community, and if you're a film student, film fan, you definitely have more options than you've ever had before. So there's that. But the business is tough.
Yeah, I do think that in the golden age of the DVD era, I guess is a decent way to put that. I think we had more films being released on DVD, but I think we are in perhaps the golden age of treating everything with love and passion as much as humanly possible.
Yeah,
for the most part.
I don't miss the VHS days, even though I still feel nostalgia for the video store. I worked in a video store for 4 years when I was in college, and I liked the fact that I could look at the boxes for, at the time, there were, I think, 13 witchcraft movies. And I watched them all, and I don't regret it, but I'll never do it again. But I liked that they were there.
Right.
But VHS as a format, I have no nostalgia for.
Yeah, not really. Dave, what's going on, Dave? Dave got an Arrow order in, Giallo Essentials, the Red Box, and the Andromeda Strain. I love the Andromeda Strain.
Robert Wise, yeah.
Oh, look, Sardis does too. Neil's here. What's going on, Neil? And Steve. Hey, Steve. Okay, I think we are ready for some announcements.
Right.
This is a rough week because I was posting announcements on the fly. My sister was here on vacation, so I was spending a lot of time with her. I know that I missed BFI announcements this week, but I will get those up, and we'll talk about those next week. So let's dive in. The first thing we got last Friday was Arrow. Arrow Video put out a pretty interesting month after taking a couple really light months. We are getting the Count Yorga collection. This is coming on October 25th. And this has, let me see here. It's got disc 1, we got Count Yorga Vampire, and then disc 2, The Return of Count Yorga. This is going to have a Blu-ray for both movies, the original audio, subtitles, of course, and then there's a collector's book in this first, the limited release that they always do. Fold-out double-sided posters for both films featuring commissioned artwork by Heather Vaughn, 12 double-sided postcard-sized lobby cards, reproduction press book for Count Yorga Vampire, which that's a really cool piece to add, I think. Then we got brand new audio commentary by Tim Lucas, which is pretty damn exciting. Then a new appreciation of Count Yorga by Heather Drain and Chris O'Neill. New interview with Frank Darabont, in which the award-winning filmmaker talks about his love for Count Yorga Vampire. And then a new interview with actor Michael Murphy. And there's even more on that disc. There's some old legacy features coming on there. And then on disc 2, for The Return, we get a new audio commentary by Stephen Bissett, The Count and the Counterculture, a brand new interview with critic Maitland McDonough. Chamber Music of Horror's new interview with Dave Huckville about the scores for both films. And then again, some old legacy features on there. What do you think about Count Yorga?
Wow. So when I first saw it, I was like, damn, because I've got the Twilight Time Blu-ray of Count Yorga and the Shout release of Return. But
Right.
I imagine these are going to be some refreshed scans, and I'm pretty excited about. I like seeing interviews with Maitland McDonough. She wrote one of the first really good books about Dario Argento, Broken Mirrors, Broken Minds. Chris O'Neill did a video essay for the I'm Dangerous Tonight Blu-ray that I contributed to. of course, Tim Lucas, and yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there. I think that's going to be worth checking out. I might have to finance that by selling my out of print Twilight Time.
There's a lot of people still after those old Twilight Time discs, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What's going on, Dead Sea Life? Glad you're here. Dude says he remembers seeing all those witchcraft movies at the family video down the street. Wanted to rent them all and do a marathon, but never did.
You saved yourself some pain, but it's doable.
Spaghetti wants us to start over because he was a little late, and we're going to do that right now. So, welcome to Reconnected. I'm just kidding. Let's get right back to this. What's going on, Spaghetti? Glad you're here. Next one up from Arrow. This was heavily rumored earlier this year, and I'm really glad it came to fruition because this might be my favorite Cronenberg nowadays. I think that other than, I think we talked about this either last week or the week before. It's really difficult to say that when he has a life-changing film in The Fly. So I'm not even going to count The Fly. The Fly is a classic. Everybody, that's like one of the most amazing films of all time. This, other than The Fly, is probably my favorite Cronenberg at this point. So in the UK only, they're putting out a 4K UHD, a Videodrome. Once again, they are doing what they've done with some of their other releases and basically copying everything about that Blu-ray release that they did and just putting a 4K disc in it. But also, they are doing a version of this with the OG poster artwork. Wow. And that is an Arrow site exclusive. And as far as I remember, I don't think there are any new features on this at all. Yeah, I think everything I'm seeing is from the original. Now, one thing to point out, the original release of Videodrome, it had the David Cronenberg early works. This does not. Oh. So you are losing quite a bit if you try to get rid of your old limited edition and then replace it with this. Now, they do have the David Cronenberg early works that they sell separately, but I don't know. This is a pretty incredible film, and I really can't wait to see it in 4K.
Well, Tim Lucas is talking over everything now. Look at that. I guess that's got to be new, right?
I don't think so. I think that was on the original. I'd have to look.
Wow, I don't remember it being there. It may be, though. It's been a while since I've looked at it. I remember watching, though, that Fear on Film roundtable from 1982 with Cronenberg and Carpenter and Landis and McGarris. And I remember John Landis, no offense to John Landis, he didn't care. He was real extra hype on that show. He talked about a minute. And just watching Carpenter's eyes rolling in the back of his head, getting annoyed, it's almost worth watching that before any of the other features.
It's a wonderful conversation. I definitely suggest people seek that out if you have not seen it.
Yeah, really good. I'm a huge Cronenberg fan. I'd say he's probably, I don't know, when people ask me my favorite filmmaker, I have a different answer every day, but I probably say David Cronenberg more often than any other filmmaker. And like you, this is probably my first or second favorite film, and I like to think about it as a triple feature with Existence and Crimes of the Future, the new Crimes of the Future, not the original experimental film. With this film being kind of the analog exploration of the media theory of Marshall McLuhan, and then Existence getting into virtual reality and cybernetics, and then finally Crimes of the Future, this sort of evolution, devolution, kind of older man's perspective on these same things. I'm excited about this coming out so that I can do all three again.
I need to revisit Crimes of the Future because I gotta be honest, I did not love it in the theater. It is it's a I don't know. It seemed like there was a lot of meat left on the bone there that they could have done more with. Sort of an anticlimactic ending for me, but I definitely see the trilogy idea there. And man, Existence really needs more attention nowadays. Really does.
For sure. Yeah.
Quiet Rob, what's going on, my friend? He is also excited for Videodrome. Antoine's also here. What's going on? Video Store says, I want Canada to host the Olympics so Cronenberg can direct the opening ceremony. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Next up from them, they are putting out something called Take Back the Night from 2021. And I don't normally say something like this, but man, this movie does not look like one I would enjoy.
Yeah, you know, I hadn't heard of this, and I assumed, and it turned out rightly, that this kind of fits into the sort of revitalized rape revenge genre. Although I watched the trailer today and got pretty intrigued. But this genre movie, I don't know if enjoy is the right word anyway. You know, it's kind of an experience. Yeah, an experience that hopefully will lead to some positive insights and reactions. I actually found that this is streaming on Tubi, so I think I'm going to check it out this week or weekend and see how it looks. But the packaging looks really cool, you know.
It's decent. I think it probably really jives with the overall tone of the film very well. From what I saw from the trailer, it looks like that's going to fit right in. This one, for those that have not read into this one, it says, finding herself the victim of a violent monster attack, Jane launches a vigilante campaign to hunt the beast that tried to kill her. But her troubling history of drug use and mental illness bubbles to the surface, causing her family, community, and the authorities to question her account. Alone in her fight, Jane starts to doubt her own memory of the attack and to wonder if the monster exists at all. So this is fueled by formidable female talent, both in front of and behind the camera. And Take Back the Night is a terrifying suspense thriller that's both an eye-opening expose and a powerful rallying cry. This one has an audio commentary by Gia Elliott and Alexandra Heller-Nicholas, author of Rape Revenge Films, A Critical Study. And Alexandra Heller-Nicholas has been everywhere lately. Wonderful author, by the way.
Great. That's a great book. She's fantastic. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to this.
And then please don't say the word. Go ahead.
I said I was looking forward to this, and then I was like, well, that's kind of a weird thing to say for this particular genre. I'm really interested in seeing this. Yeah.
Then after that, we got Please Don't Say the Word Monster on national television, a visual essay by Emma Westwood, another visual essay by film critic Cerise Howard, exploring the idea of safe spaces, sanctuary, and vulnerability. And then What is a Body? Another visual essay by Justine Smith, examining bodily autonomy. And Monsters Are Real, another visual essay by film critic BJ Colangelo, looking at survivor unity, sexual violence, and social media theatrical trailer. And BJ and her wife, they are wonderful. Just were on one of the podcasts that I produce. Take a look at their work. They do some really, really interesting stuff. They're just amazing critics and some really, really good commentary out there on film. Video Store says, I do wish labels reached out to more contributors. I think I own more work by Alexandra Heller-Nicholas than David Lynch. I got to be honest, I see that. There is really a small little club lately in some of these boutiques on people contributing, but it's also hard to find good talent for stuff like this, willing to do it for how little they're able to pay.
Yeah, well, it's hard to get exposure. Hopefully some more people will get into the club.
I was about to say, how's the commentary on something that just came out recently from Kino there, Will?
Yeah, well, you know, the I'm Dangerous Tonight Blu-ray that came out last week, it's been getting some decent reviews. I mean, obviously the focus should be on the film. Right. But it really is packed with extras, as we talked about on the interview, and some of the reviews that have come out about the Blu-ray have been nice. Yeah, we'll see. I hope it does well. I hope that it leads to more of Tobe's television work coming out, and yeah, you know, see what happens.
I agree. So that's Take Back the Night. And then next up, they put out one that looks pretty damn intriguing to me. This is Two Witches from 2021. Expectant young mother Sarah is convinced she has been given the evil eye from a mysterious blink-eyed old hag while she is dining with their bullish and insensitive partner Simon. When the couple go to visit his new agey friends Dustin and Melissa, dark forces are unleashed after an ill-advised attempt at consulting a Ouija board to allay her fears. Meanwhile, tensions grow between grad school student Rachel and her new roommate Masha after a violent incident involving a man that the strange and impulsive young woman has brought home. This is from a first-time feature director who also shot, edited, and contributed to the soundtrack, which is pretty dang cool. This one's got new audio commentary by the director, new audio commentary by the producer, behind the movie, a two-part behind-the-scenes featurette, and then some interviews, the original score, an interview with the composer, and some others like a Q&A at Grimfest 2021. And then, of course, in the first pressing, you got one of those books. Two Witches. Any thoughts on this one?
First I'm hearing of it, but I mean, I'm always excited to check out obvious passion projects like this when filmmakers put together something that's so personal.
Right.
I will say that at this day and age, everybody should know never consult a Ouija board for comfort. But I will forgive that trope, and definitely I'll give this a watch. I'm intrigued.
Tropes are tropes for a reason. Then they put out a very interesting one. This is called Gothic Fantastico, featuring Lady Morgan's Vengeance, the Blancheville Monster, the Third Eye, and the Witch. This is going to have brand new 2K restorations from the OCN for all 4 movies. These are all Blu-rays, of course. And then we got optional Italian and English front and end titles on a few of them. We got subtitles, of course, new video introductions to each film by Italian film devotee Mark Thompson Ashworth, 80-page booklet, which is pretty dang cool for something like this, fold-out double-sided poster, and then again, audio commentaries and video essays by Kat Ellinger, Alexandra Heller-Nicholas, Erica Blanc, Paul Muller, and more. There's all kinds of names on this because this is going to have 4 pretty stacked discs for these films.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm most excited about The Witch. This is one of the first films by Damiano Damiani, who is not as well known as he should be. Blue Underground has put out a couple of his films, A Bullet for the General, How to Kill a Judge. He's probably best known for films about the Italian mafia. His masterpiece, La Moglie più bella, The Most Beautiful Wife, which was the first film with Ornella Muti. That's a fantastic film. And he's probably best known in America for directing the best Amityville movie, in my opinion, Amityville 2, The Possession. One of the last things he did, I'll actually hold up, was an Italian television show about the mafia, La Piovra, the octopus. He directed the entire first season of that show. Can you tell I love Damiano Damiani?
Interesting.
I'm not familiar with the other 3 films, but I'm gonna check them all out because of The Witch, which is kind of an avant-garde gender politics exploration of terror and tension.
For anybody wondering, I do think 1 or 2 of these is on Tubi right now for free to be able to stream. So if you want to check out 1 or 2 of them before putting down, it's like a $60 or $70 set or whatever. This is looking to me like one of the ones that's genuinely worth it because of the amount of work put into these. So much content, so much love and passion put into this. And it looks just like really interesting 4-pack of films. Then we started getting some others. Once again, you showed some Mill Creek titles earlier.
Yeah.
This is one that Mill Creek put out a couple of years ago. And Kino Lorber on October 11th is now releasing Blind Fury with Rutger Hauer. Now, stepping away from what they've been doing with a couple of these other recent announcements, this one actually has a new audio commentary, which the other ones they were getting nothing new. Now, there's nothing new about a restoration or anything like that, so it's all going to be the same except for that audio commentary. So there is, if you're really into Rutger Hauer, you might want this. The commentary is done by screenwriter Charles Robert Carner, moderated by filmmaker Douglas Hosdale, and Blind Fury, Rutger Hauer. Any thoughts?
Oh man, don't forget Terry O'Quinn's in it, and Meg Foster, and Randall Tex Cobb. This is a fun movie. Might be a good double feature with Hobo with a Shotgun, so you get kind of mid-career Rutger Hauer and late-career Rutger Hauer. Philip Noyce did Dead Calm, which is a really good thriller. Yeah, so I'm pretty interested in this one.
Terry O'Quinn is great. Always a really wonderful actor. Yeah, Blind Fury's fun. Saw it a couple years ago. It's worth the watch at least once, and this one most likely will be one of the very cheap Kino titles, so this should be pretty easy to pick up, even in a sale.
Yeah, add on to get the free shipping.
There you go. Now this one is a very timely one to talk about because these are going up for pre-order tomorrow, this Friday, August 5th at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. here in the Central Standard Time Zone. And I'm excited for the next Error 4444 releases. First up, we got Centipede Horror. This is coming with a slipcase limited to 1,000. There's a booklet, 3 stickers, some lobby cards, double-sided poster, and then a Margaret Lee card. And then there is also another slipcase limited to 1,000 with all of the same items. Then their second title is Red Spell Spells Red, limited to 1,000 on this slip, and of course, a second slip, Red Spell Spells Red. All right, Asian wacky horror. Will, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm a big fan of Centipede Horror, which I saw on a really terrible DVD release. I think I got from Netflix when Netflix was mail order, a long time ago, and it is like all the other films that Error 4444 has put out so far. I guess the technical term is it's pretty fucked up. Haven't seen Red Spells Red before, but if they're coming out together, then I'm willing to take the chance because Centipede Horror it's something.
These look really interesting to me. I've not seen either one of these before. I am kind of curious to see how people respond to the pricing. The fact that we get options is really cool. I think there are more people that will be able to get a copy as long as we don't get people that buy both of them immediately or all 4 of them technically. I just $36 for a Blu-ray release, that is getting on the pricier side for a Blu-ray, but I get it. It's boutiques, and things have changed for some of these. And then a lot of people are going to point out stuff like Vinegar Syndrome for a 4K release is $45, $50, and then we get box sets going up to $8, all that. So I get it. Prices are rising. It's tough.
I'm probably going to do
it. So this is going to have, for special features, on the first film, Centipede Horror, a 2K restoration of the uncut film elements. Then there is an animal cruelty-free cut, which I always love when companies do that for people that don't want to see it. And it's only going to be missing less than a minute of footage, so not too much. Predicting Ultraviolence, Hong Kong's Cat 3 rating. That's just a little featurette. And then Spot the Difference, Centipede Horror Censorship. I'm really curious about seeing that. And then they've got some newly translated English and Mandarin subtitles. On Red Spell Spells Red, we're getting, again, a 2K restoration that is uncut, an animal cruelty-free cut. That one is going to be almost 3 minutes cut out of the film. And then How to Make a Successful Hong Kong Black Magic Film. Little featurette there. And then, again, newly translated subs. They're doing a lot of stuff on these.
Yeah. I always appreciate refreshed subtitle translations. I have a feeling that the version of Centipede Horror that I watched was not the most accurate translation, so I'm looking forward to an enhanced viewing experience.
I did a conversation on the other channel for Discovering Cinema with me and Flip and Frank Jang, who did a lot of the older Asian titles back in like the mid 2000s, and he's doing a lot of commentaries, especially for like Eureka lately. And there's so many things that he has done to retranslate, because a lot of these subs, they're still using his subtitles from like 15 years ago, and it just was not done perfectly. So he's fixing some of those, and I'm just glad that they're getting better releases nowadays.
Yeah.
Christian's Hobby Blog wants to point out the release of Robotrix, can't speak, has a great essay on Cat 3, and then I believe it's The Untold Story from Unearthed Films has a really nice doc on Cat 3 films.
Oh, I love The Untold Story. That movie.
Such a good movie. And then for this, they are doing a VHS collaboration with Lunchmeat, and those VHS will be up for grabs during the pre-order. There's going to be 50 of them for Centipede Horror, 50 for Red Spells Red, and 50 for Anatomia Extinction, which was their very first release. Now, they also have some bundle options. So for $80, you can get one of the Centipede Blu-rays, one of the Red Spell Blu-rays, and it will have all 4 of the slipcases, and that's $80. Or you can, for $90, have one of the Centipede Blu-rays, both of the limited slipcases for Centipede and the extras, the VHS for it, and the shirt for it. Or for the Red Spell, you can get one Blu-ray, both slipcases, the VHS, and the shirt for $90. Or the limited Centipede and Red Nico bundle, you can get Centipede and Scorpions, a Nico Films duology limited rigid box, includes exclusive art on both sides and a magnetic clasp. Limited book inside containing newly commissioned comics of both Centipede Horror and Red Spells Red by Mark Gross, plus the novelization of Red Spells Red, translated to English for the first time ever with photos and artwork. It will also include a Centipede Horror Blu-ray, a Red Spell Blu-ray, all 4 limited slipcases, and all of the limited extras. Holy gosh.
I think there's another one, though. There's another bundle.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
I will have to look it up, because I must have missed it. One second.
I think for 180 you get everything.
That's right. It wouldn't let me upload that one. Yeah, let me share that picture.
So
I don't know how I missed that one. Again, it's from having my sister here this week. That's what I'm going to blame.
I shouldn't have said anything, so I want to get one of those, and they're not that many.
It's only limited to 20. Dear gosh.
Yeah.
All right, let me stop sharing this screen, and we'll share that one for a second. Man, limited to 20.
Shoot, what time does that go on sale?
10 a.m. Eastern.
Nah,
So Centipede and Red Mega Bundle, this is limited to 20 for $180. You get everything that they had listed there. $180.
It's around 9:58. I'm gonna have to pretend I'm getting an emergency phone call so I can jet out of work. Up on my laptop.
I'm interviewing another label tomorrow, and it will be over right as that goes on sale. So I'm gonna have to jet out of there quickly.
Yeah, to wrap it up.
All right, so that is Air 4444. Lots of cool stuff. I'm curious to see what else we have on the horizon. Yeah, they've done kind of a lot already, but also they've really been around since like early in the pandemic, and they've only put out a handful of titles now. So it shows that either there's been a lot of delays, or they're putting a lot of time and energy into each one, and it looks like it's the latter, because they are really delivering the good stuff. All right. You got something else?
No, I was just gonna say I appreciate the boutique labels whose identity is kind of wrapped up around releasing one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Synapse is very similar, although they've been around much longer and have a much larger catalog. But at the same time, I'm mindful of the labels who have much larger catalogs, like Third Eye and of course Vinegar Syndrome 7. And I like the fact that there are so many different identities for the different labels. It kind of it makes it less transactional to me, like that they all have their own personalities. I mean, it is transactional, but it's less exploitive. You know,
There's almost a personality there because they seem to be going down a very specific route.
And I think this is a good example of how, you know, you can work in a I don't want to get too esoteric, but how you can work in a capitalist system but still have kind of an ethic about you, you know, where profit isn't the only margin, right? You have to make a profit to stay viable, obviously, but you're also really paying attention to quality and interaction with your customer base and so on. And, you know, wouldn't it be nice if that was how it was?
Right. Speaking of esoteric, Jeff wants to know, does Will get a lot of pushback or disapproval in your classes when you discuss some of these films?
You know, that's a good question. And shockingly, the answer is no, not really. I teach a lot of courses to non-majors. So they're first and second year students who don't have a whole lot of background in film studies. And then I teach courses to upper level students, especially like my cult films course is more for upper level. And I do give a trigger warning, in the sense that I say, like, look, you know, some of these movies are going to feature material that can be upsetting. And I've shown Cannibal Holocaust several times, and I frame it, say, look, I'm not showing this because I want to upset anybody or shock anybody. I'm showing this because, you know, this is a significant film and you know, deserves analysis. That's the argument that I'm making. I think it deserves analysis. You may disagree, and we can have that conversation. And I've had a couple people, you know, I've been teaching 17 years. I've had a couple people who have said, you know what, I don't really want to come this day. I don't want to. I've had maybe 2 people opt out of seeing Cannibal Holocaust, which is totally fair. I think the only time anybody's ever walked out of a movie was actually Romeo and Juliet. A guy got up and said, and came over to me and said, oh, I'm sorry, I just can't take it. And I said, I can see that, you know, go ahead, you know, you're excused. But no, I think if you're fortunate enough to teach in a situation where you can really have a conversation with the students and let them be involved and give them background on the films, even when you're showing stuff that can be really upsetting and shocking, they're prepared for it. They're watching it as a group. And it's, you know, of course, the semester starts in 2 weeks, so I could get reported to the provost like right away. You know. but no, so far, you know, one thing I can say, and I'll leave this as my legacy in the world, anybody who comes to my school and majors in media studies is probably going to see Frankenhooker. They're probably going to see one of the films that we'll talk about when we get to the Vinegar Syndrome partner label, and several others. And I'm really proud of that because so many of these underground cult films have so much to say socially and artistically that otherwise wouldn't, you know, wouldn't make the cut. So
I'll throw out there as well that trigger warning and the context that's given before showing these, that is the perfect reason to really dive into these physical releases, because the commentaries, these essays that we've already mentioned tonight, these featurettes, they do this wonderful, literally almost film school level job of delivering context, of delivering an explanation of what was happening during that era, what the director's vision was, or, you know, so many things that can affect what an actual film is produced to be, whether that be something from the studio or an actor or whatever. There's so much that can happen on a film production that context can be genuinely important to not only your enjoyment of the film, but what it actually means and you understanding.
Yeah. And the gold standard, the one I immediately thought of when you started saying that, was Joe Bob Briggs' commentary track on "I Spit on Your Grave."
Yep.
Which is a deeply unpleasant movie and should be to watch. But his commentary contextualizes in such a way that you really appreciate what the film is, and so many others, like many of the names that you've mentioned tonight, who are kind of dominant in the commentary world, do something really similar in not just analyzing but advocating for the films.
Got a couple more now that we're talking about this.
There
We
we
have
go.
film fans that not really trying to get a degree; they're just there to take a class because they enjoy film.
Oh yeah, I'll let them in. If you want to, if any student wants to be there, I want them there. Because so many people don't really want to. They're taking it for a credit and whatever. And part of my job is to try to get people into it. But if somebody's already enthusiastic, come on.
Video Store wants to know, how do you screen the films? Is it in a cinema type theater or just wheel out an old VHS era 22-inch CRT TV?
Well, I'm at University of North Carolina, Greensboro. We don't quite have the Chapel Hill budgets. We do still have VHS players, but we do have a projector with Blu-ray capability now in many of the rooms. There are some rooms that I teach in where I have to wheel out. I got a 60-inch TV with a Blu-ray. We don't have any 4K or anything like that. That would never happen. I don't think. But we can show VHS when necessary. We have streaming that we can do. Library has streaming services, so there are a lot of different formats that we use to show things. But yeah, when I wheel out the TV, it's always kind of funny because it feels so like 80s. We're about to watch a driver's ed video or something.
Substitute teachers here. Time to watch something to get you all to shut up. Last one on this for now. Stan says, "What's your favorite Tobe Hooper movie, and why is it Spontaneous Combustion?"
Stan Geezy, the author of Smoldering Embers on the set of Spontaneous Combustion. I think Spontaneous Combustion should be on the list of everyone's favorite Tobe Hooper films, and if they read Stan's book, it definitely will leap up the standings.
Back to Air 444. I want to point out what Brian says. So excited to get Red Spell and Centipede releases. Never thought this would happen. And that is the reason to keep supporting companies like this, because there are lots of films out there that there are fans of that are still thinking may never happen. But if we are able to keep supporting these companies, it just may be that film for you. Next up is Will. Just a reminder that if you have not seen the video that we put up last week, please go watch our conversation about Tobe Hooper. It is a really in-depth look and a really fun conversation about everything from Vietnam to current politics to why, if you ask who directed Poltergeist, you are a dick.
That's the truth. But we didn't have time to talk about everything. Somebody pointed out in the comments that we didn't talk about the Funhouse, and my friend Chris is going to kill me because I forgot to talk about Night Terrors, which is one of our favorites to watch together. So we might have to do a part 2 at some point.
Oh no. Yeah, Funhouse was a glaring omission for sure. There's probably a lot more that could be said about Eaten Alive. There's so many out there, and he just had such a varied career. Anyways, Kino announced that they are putting out a release of Assassination from 1967 with Henry Silva. This is a new 4K restoration, only coming on Blu-ray. This will not be a 4K disc, but still pretty cool. Nice, little crime film here by Emilio Miraglia. I think I said that right. The same one that did The Night Evelyn Came Out of the Grave and The Red Queen Kills 7 Times. Both of those put out by Arrow in that little double pack box set years ago at this point.
Yeah,
that had to have been like probably 6 or 7 year old release now.
I have the old No Shame DVD releases that come with the figurines.
Oh wow.
I love Emilio Miraglia. Those two films, Evelyn and The Red Queen, are gorgeous. So I'm really looking for. I've never seen Assassination. Love Henry Silva, so this is exciting.
They've been doing a lot of work over at Kino. It seems like they slowed down a little bit here after I'm Dangerous Tonight, and we got a little bit of a reprieve for a couple weeks. But man, they're still just cranking out these announcements. So there's still lots more from Kino on the horizon. Next up, some interesting ones that I know we got some fans of on here. So even though I know nothing about them, I know you guys are excited. Some Discotheque stuff. We're getting a release of Space Sheriff Gavan from 1982, all episodes in HD. This is the first time ever released with English subs, and it will contain a reunion discussion with the lead actor Kenji Oba and director Osamu Kaneda. There's a photo gallery and then a historical essay by Mike Dent. Are you into any of these types of shows from back then?
These are outside of my wheelhouse, but I'm interested in filling the gap there. I do teach a course on the origins of anime, but I'm not an expert. So it really is kind of an intro, and a lot of these live action shows that kind of connect to the genre are things
right.
that I'm looking forward to checking out.
Lots of kaiju releases from Discotheque, lots of old like tokusatsu. The next one they announced, speaking of Legend of Dinosaurs and Monster Birds, this is one of the lost Kill the whatever, I don't remember what it was called. The episodes of Mystery Science Theater, and they are not able to have that commentary. This is coming in 2022. A new HD transfer, looks sillier than ever. Vintage Frontier Enterprises dub is included. New subtitles, which is really cool for something like this. And this is coming on Blu-ray 2022.
Okay.
Next is Kino is putting out the Rainmaker. This is Hal Wallace's The Rainmaker with Burt Lancaster and Katharine Hepburn. And there was a lot of discussion from this title. I don't know if you saw any of this commentary that came out. I think this was announced on Sunday. People are freaking out because this is being remastered in HD by Paramount from a 6K scan of the 35mm VistaVision original camera negative. So I wanted to see if everybody could get on the same page a little bit about what that means. So essentially, this is still only going to be a 1080p Blu-ray disc, but they are doing it in a restoration that is done even higher than a 4K restoration. And it has nothing to do with the 6K disc or anything like that. It is about restoring it and archiving it at the highest possible quality. There are other films that have been restored in like 8K, 10K. I think there was even something like 16K on one of those a few years ago, and it doesn't have any effect on you necessarily. It's just on how people are getting it remastered. So don't think that from this there's going to be a 6K player or anything like that. You're never going to have a 6K disc that you're buying. You're never going to have any type of physical media at home that you need to buy a new 6K TV for. Any thoughts or anything to add on that front there, Will?
Yeah, well, VistaVision only lasted about 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
Before the technology kind of outpaced it in terms of the fine film grain. But it was kind of the progenitor of what we now know as IMAX. And I imagine that this scan is to kind of help make up for the fact that the film grain is a little less fine than the processes that came out in the late 50s, early 60s. That's my guess. I'm no expert there, but it's a pretty good movie. I can say that.
And there were a handful of things that were done like that over the years. I mean, Technicolor is a big thing. Obviously, Panavision was a big one when it came out. We've got what is that? Is it Smile Vision that Warner Archive just put out that one recently? Gosh, what is it? There's the one that's like for a circular type screen. Do you remember the one I'm talking about? I cannot remember the actual title of it, but yeah. There were a handful of these methods that were used to make films, and so to preserve them at the highest possible quality, it makes sense. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if we can, there we go. Thank you, Terry. I knew you'd come through. Cinerama and Smilebox. Smilebox is the one I was thinking of. Hey, my sister, she must have landed in Texas. Look at that.
Oh, great.
Glad she's safe. Yeah, so Cinerama and Smilebox. There are other, essentially, there are other formats out there that we are going to have to restore them at the highest possible quality. It's going to be different, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with that at all.
I mean, Burt Lancaster and Katharine Hepburn's going to move some units so they can afford to do a good restoration.
Exactly. Spaghetti says, I want old Burt to pop out of the screen and shake my hand with that remaster. Ain't that the truth? Anthony, looking forward to watching my 6K digital files. I eat my rehydrated Pizza Hut pizza. Maybe someday in the future. And then I kind of brought this up for a second, but it looks like we have Chris to blame. He says, I started it on the cult site on Facebook. So, yeah, there is no new anything coming. It's just a really great restoration of a film. Oh, boy.
Speaking of polishing some, what's the phrase? Polishing some turds? Nah, some of these are okay.
Yeah, I'm super nostalgic for H2O. I don't love the others, but let's go through this. Shout Factory announced their October titles. The long rumored and finally confirmed Halloween 4K. They're calling this a collection from 1995 to 2002. Lots of information has come out on these through like replies on Twitter. So first off, this is not available to Canada. Usually Shout Factory sells all their stuff in Canada as well. This one, they could not get licensing in Canada. They could not get licensing to sell these separately. So these will only be available in the box set. These are not going to come out as single releases at all unless they amend the contract later, which is really interesting. I have a feeling that they did that because they were probably not going to sell many of Halloween Resurrection. The diehard collectors would get one of all of them, but the others at least have a following. Resurrection is sort of behind on that front.
Maybe, I mean, Busta Rhymes fans will probably get into it.
Absolutely. Of course, if you order from Shout Factory, you'll get the box set, and then they are doing the 3 different rolled posters of these if you want them to match the first 5 you got last year. Extras are in progress and will be announced later. The 4K for the Halloween 6 is going to have the theatrical and the producer's cut on UHD, which is pretty crazy that we're getting the producer's cut in 4K. I did not think they would be able to pull that off, but that's awesome.
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing how that looks. You know, Curse of Michael Myers is in some ways a betrayal of John Carpenter's vision of Michael Myers having no, motivation or backstory per se. But it's kind of interesting to think about, druidic rites and legends, and Paul Rudd. That's kind of neat to see him in that context. But H2O is a pretty good movie. I mean, Steve Miner's a good filmmaker. He made Friday the 13th 2 and 3. Several good films in his career. I thought H2O really refreshed the franchise. So I think that's worth seeing for sure.
Josh Hartnett coming straight out of the faculty and into H2O, not changing wardrobe or hairstyle at all. Jamie Lee Curtis and Jamie Lee, both in H2O, which is kind of a cool thing. Again, I don't know why I'm so nostalgic. I love H2O. It is a wacky film. It is off the wall compared to the franchise, but it exists and it's fun. A lot here. All leads to everybody talking about the art on that box. The box art leaves a lot to be desired, but it does. I mean, it's very much inspired by the films. The drawing of Michael Myers is from the film. There's so much that just, I don't know. There's a lot here, and I'm hoping that it does say extras in progress. I'm hoping they're able to get a lot for this that's new. I know that we get confirmation on at least a new commentary coming, because somebody announced that on Instagram or something like 5 months back, which is how we knew something was coming for these.
Well, if anybody at Shout Factory is listening and wants a frame-by-frame analysis of the fight between Michael Myers and Busta Rhymes, I'm available.
I want to hear all
Really
of the Kung Fu analysis with very analytical terms. This also pretty much confirms that the zombie films are not coming on 4K. I believe the rights now for those two are with Lionsgate, I think, after everything that went down. So it seems like we are probably not going to get those. And time will tell. I think if they were going to do it, it would probably be this fall after Halloween ends or around Halloween ends. So time will tell. But the other exciting thing is coming to 4K, which means back in print in the United States as the collector's edition, is the Return of the Living Dead. This is going to come with one of their pin sets, and this is coming with the poster, of course. And extras are in progress and will be announced later, just like Halloween set, which means, again, I hope they get some more. However, this is going to be the same as the first time, where they are unable to get that one random music track that they couldn't put on their first release. So it is not going to be the 100% perfect music rights. The only release still in the entire world on Blu-ray is the Second Sight Steelbook. Had everything intact. Everything else is missing at least one music track, which is crazy.
Collect them all. It's great that it comes with a pin, because then you can put it on your jacket and say, you think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life. You know?
I only paid $57 for these pins.
Right.
Oh, man. Weirdest possible announcement ever, I think. Shout Factory is putting out Bad Santa 2 on Blu-ray on October 4th. Now, the reason this is so odd, this has a standalone 4K release.
It does?
Yes.
Oh
the original film doesn't even have a 4K release, but this gets another Blu-ray release after the 4K is out.
Well, this is by the director of Mr. Popper's Penguin, so that's obviously we want to see the visual design.
Definitely surprised it did not come with a signed poster then. Thanks, Anthony. It says Deadbeat Dance by The Damned is that missing song. I always forget the title of that, and it should be really obvious with that film. Next up, one of their Studio Ghibli films they are putting out when Marnie is there from 2014 in a steelbook, and then there's, of course, going to be a standard release as well. This is coming on October 11th. Same thing, exclusive booklet, feature-length storyboards, the making of, some behind-the-scenes stuff like that. Ghibli, you a Ghibli fan?
Anytime I teach the anime class, I always show Grave of the Fireflies, and I bring several boxes of tissues for students, and of course, plenty of Miyazaki films. And I like When Marnie Was There. I saw that several years ago. Beautiful. I'll tell one Studio Ghibli story real quick. I took my daughter to see, she was about 7 at the time, to see Pompoko. It had been released in the theaters, and I'd never seen it before. I just knew Studio Ghibli. And I was all these magical raccoons, and they were sitting on these like bouncy balls. I was like, what are those things? And then I realized they were the testicles, which is where the magic came from. And I looked around to see if any of the parents noticed, and everybody just played it cool while these raccoons stretched their testicles into hang gliders and pulled magical dust out of them and stuff. And so far, she seems okay. She's almost 10 now and hasn't mentioned it.
I'm going to have to show my 7-year-old those magical raccoon balls soon.
No testicles in When Marnie Was There that I can recall.
That's a plus. Speaking of 4K from Shout, they are also putting out Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure on 4K. This is only going to have a 4K disc. It will not have the Blu-ray. They are saying that they're going to try to get some extras later. They are going to confirm those, as they do quite often, at a later date. Interesting sort of release that they're just putting this out.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you drop your $40 for it now, and then next year they do a box set with all 3 films. I don't know.
Yeah, this is one I hesitate to say this publicly because I don't know if I could stand by it, but this is one where the sequel may still be my favorite of the two. So I don't know.
Well, hell yeah,
yeah, Bogus is maybe my favorite of the two. I think Carlin was special, man. Yeah. Anyways, I could talk about Carlin for hours. Excellent Adventure. This comes out October 11th in 4K. Coming from the Shout Select line. But possibly the bigger deal, they've never released this film. We are getting The Last Detail in 4K from Jack Nicholson. Obviously, this is the Hal Ashby film. Yeah. This is coming October 25th to the Shout Select line. This is kind of a very out of nowhere Shout Select, like, classy title compared to what they've been putting out on Shout Select lately.
And damn it, I just got the Indicator Blu-ray like a month ago. Got tired of waiting for The Last Detail. I'm a big Hal Ashby fan, of course. Harold and Maude being there. So The Landlord, so many good films. Yeah, double dip, got to do it.
This is bound to look pretty incredible in 4K. This is just one of those movies that's special. Jack Nicholson back then was on fire. Absolutely incredible actor. Yeah, this is from 1973, so it just the height possibly of everything Jack Nicholson was doing back then. The Last Detail is great. Everybody should check this one out. I'm curious to see if they're able to get anything from the Indicator release, because they could license some of it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's hardly anybody left to talk about the film.
That's very true.
From cast and crew, so hope so.
I doubt Nicholson would be able to say much coherent about it at this point.
Yeah.
This is another Ghibli film. We are getting Ocean Waves from 1993. I don't know anything about this one. Have you seen this one?
I'm with you on that one. I've seen the icon in little Ghibli catalogs and websites, but I've not looked at it before. Just from reading the description, I especially like animated films that have a bit of melancholy to them, a bit of trauma. So this looks like something that I'll definitely want to check out and enjoy.
I missed this joke. I wanted to share this because Video Store is hilarious. The Last Detail with extras to be confirmed later. The irony. Yes, they did not get any details.
Nicely done.
And then they are putting out in a steelbook on October 18th a Silent Voice from 2016. Yet again, nothing on my end on this one.
Yeah, me either. But now I should probably start planning my next anime course, and then this will be a good excuse to use some school funds to do some research.
I got to admit, this art probably going to look really nice on a steelbook.
Yeah, it does look. And again, the description looks good.
Yeah. Definitely does. But one that I'm genuinely excited about, Shaun the Sheep movie, Farmageddon, from 2019. This is coming out on October 18th from Shout Factory. I think I'm going to get this one and show my kids. I always love finding some of these old animated horror-adjacent titles that we can share with them. So, yeah, this will definitely be coming this year.
Yeah, anything I can do to steer my youngest away from like those Sing movies and get her towards the quality stuff, I'm happy to be a part of that. So I support Farmageddon as well.
Amen to that. Then this is The Possessed from 2021. This is coming on October 18th. And I am blanking on who it was, but somebody, I think it was in my Discord, was saying that they are, or no, I apologize. It was a friend of mine that I know from Oklahoma that he's in some of the Facebook groups. He sent me a message saying that his buddy is the one that made this film. So congrats to him for getting this put out by Shout. This is, again, from 2021. Jacob Chandler is an ordinary man with an extraordinary gift, a true accidental exorcist. Jacob and his nephew Liam have forged a career clearing demons from the bodies of their clients. Lately, something has changed as possessions are increasing. Jacob fights to keep those he loves safe, the burden weighing heavily on his shoulders. When he crosses paths with Liam's new girlfriend, Adelie Carlisle, he recognizes something in her dark, broken gaze. She too can see what lies beyond the world of the living. Jacob never expected to meet anyone else like himself, nor did he anticipate needing her help. And for all slipcover lovers, this is going to be one of those indie films that's not a collector's edition that will come with a slipcover on it from Scream Factory. So if you're trying to get all of those, this is one.
I gotta admit, I'm a sucker for possession movies.
I was just about to ask if you're the same. I really enjoy them. What about, I was going to ask, I talked to my sister about this film I think it was last night. The Last Exorcism. Did you ever see that movie?
Oh, yeah. That wasn't bad.
I thought it was decent. And
Yeah.
then at the very end, I hated the last 3 minutes of that movie.
Oh, well, yeah, the genre kind of lends itself to disappointing endings.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah, I think The Last Exorcism was fun, but I'm curious to see a nice modern take on a possession film.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
Yeah. Then, God, they're doing a lot of stuff in October. From Shout Factory, The Deer King. This is from 2021. I know nothing about this. Following a brutal war, former soldier Van toils in a mine controlled by the ruling empire. One day, his solitary existence is upended when a pack of wild dogs carrying a deadly and incurable disease attack, leaving only Van and a young girl named Una as survivors. Finally free, the pair seek out a simple existence in the countryside, but are pursued by nefarious forces. Intent on protecting Una at all costs, Van must uncover the true cause of the plague ravaging the kingdom and its possible cure.
Well, no, this sounds like the exact plot of Nicolas Cage's Season of the Witch. I have no value judgment on that. No, that could be interesting. I doubt it would be quite as bizarre as that as Season of the Witch one.
I hope not. But let's get to the main event for everybody this week. Everybody has been talking about the Vinegar Syndrome and partner label titles. There is so much coming every single month, and this month does not disappoint. We have so much to go over here. First up, Forgotten Jolly Volume 5, which includes a white dress for Marielle, I believe is how you say it, from 1972, Tropic of Cancer, also from 72, and 9 Guests for a Crime from 77. All three of these are region free. All three films are getting newly restored in 4K from the OCN. And then some interviews, some audio essays. We got Rachel Nisbet on White Dress. And actually, she's on Cancer and Crime as well. And then some interviews with some actors. We got some interesting things. We don't have any commentaries, which had a few people point out.
Yeah. Now, the only one of this group I'm familiar with is a White Dress for Marielle, which was released under another title, Spirits of Death. And it's got Ivan Rasimov in it, who I really like from Deodato's Jungle Holocaust. He's in a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
And that one's a real slow build. I don't even think anybody gets killed until like an hour in. But it's very atmospheric, stylish, as the genre demands.
Of course.
So I'm a subscriber. I'm gonna see these no matter what. So
how do you feel about Giallo as a whole?
Gosh, what a question. Well, like many all fans of my generation. Argento was the first entree into, like noir. It only became a genre in retrospect, right?
Right.
And the Italian film industry, like Hollywood, kind of cannibalizes itself. So the style got quickly internalized by so many filmmakers who, Jolly, like any other genre, most of them are crap, but there are also so many gems, and sometimes you just have to wade through.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it. I don't mind. I don't mind wading through. Which with the Forgotten Jolly series, you really have to. Some of the titles in the series so far have not been great.
I think we've had a couple really good box sets. One that was pretty good, and then one that was a little lesser. This one, I think I've seen Tropic of Cancer, but that may just be my memory messing with me. With Giallo, my big thing is I am just a sucker for murder mysteries.
Yeah.
And it's at the basis of all of these, no matter what. And because of that, there's just always something intriguing there. And it's so much fun just to try to guess along, or see that they're playing this like a mystery, but they accidentally showed the killer 8 minutes into the film, so you know who it is all along, but they're like, who is it? Or all the other random mistakes that happen in these films. It's so interesting now to look back with an eye from 60 years after and say, what were you doing?
Yeah, well, I think you can compare fans of Jolly to fans of like true crime podcasts and true crime documentaries on Netflix, because there's a kind of familiarity with the form that kind of comforts you and lulls you in. But then when anybody does something different to tweak that formula, you're like, oh, that's cool, And then for whatever reason, because human beings are awful, we're just attracted to stories about people being brutally murdered. That seems to be a primal feature of our.
Yep. I always love with Giallo that if you find somebody that really likes Giallo, they are able to talk about a film, and a lot of the time it's that unique thing that they that specific film has that they grab onto. So like with the Forgotten Jolly, there's Sister of Ursula, so everybody's like, but that weapon, right? I mean, everybody, they just want to talk about that weapon. Or with Fulci, there's that one scene where the kid dies. That's kind of a big deal, right? And you just grab onto these one things, and it really, it lends to discussion well. It lends to remembering the movie better than a lot of other films that could come across as kind of samey. So Jolly is super great for that.
Last year, speaking of Fulci and Jolly films, last year I decided to show Don't Torture a Duckling in my cult films class as an example of Jolly. The other one I showed two Giallo films. Deep Red was the other one by Argento, and I thought they were going to hate Don't Torture a Duckling. They loved it. They got so into it and really latched on to the kind of commentary about the Catholic Church and all of that. I was really surprised.
It's such a great movie. God, I love it. Next up in the and by the way, if you are a sub, you are getting all of the Vinegar Syndrome titles this month. That was announced on the 1st. For some reason, this has not been in the description for the last couple months, so it's been confusing some people. I think the last time they did it was in the halfway sale titles. So July and August both did not have those descriptions in there. So you are getting everything this month, except for the stuff that we're going to talk about at Summerfest, which came out of nowhere. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Next up, we are getting a really, really interesting double feature for me. We are getting Hot Snake from 1974. This is the cover of the slip for this, but this is a double feature, and on the back, Guns and Guts, and I got to hide a little bit of that, from 1976. These are two random Mexican Westerns.
Yeah. Well, Fernando Rojas made like 100 movies between 1969 and about 2000, mid 2000s, just cranking them out at like Jess Franco speed. Hot Snake, I think, was one of his early films, like sixth or seventh film. I saw this a long time ago. I know I did. I swear to God I saw it. I can tell you nothing about it except for the trivia I just shared.
I am actually really excited that they're branching out to this. I know a lot of people have been asking about Westerns from Vinegar Syndrome for a long time. A lot of those people are asking about spaghetti Westerns, but I think this is even cooler and lends to the idea of what Vinegar Syndrome does a little more for that, preserving cinema that will likely not be preserved elsewhere. So for something like this, we are getting new 4K restorations from the OCN on both films. And then on Guns, Guts, and gosh, what is the title? Guns and Guts, we are getting an interview with Rene Cardona III on that one. And then, of course, they got the reversible artwork on there. There is not a whole lot of extras, but again, it's a double feature. This looks pretty damn sweet.
Pretty cool. I've just started to get familiar with Cardona stuff because Severin's been putting stuff out, right? And
Vinegar Syndrome put out the Cardona collection.
Oh, they did the Cardona collection. Excuse me.
And it had been planned, I believe, as a trilogy of box sets. And then the tragic thing happened. Well, first of all, they got a lot of backlash because, well, not a lot. I think that there were a handful of very vocal people online that didn't like the films, and they complained a whole lot about the Cardona collection. But then, as they were working on the second collection, one of the Cardonas passed away. Like, Brad Henderson was scheduling an interview for the following day on the phone with him, and he passed away that night.
No way. I didn't know that. Wow. Yeah. Oh, that's too bad.
So production on those have kind of skidded to a halt, publicly at least. They haven't said much on if they're going to continue to put those out. I imagine they will. I mean, they paid for the rights and the restorations, I'm sure. But on top of that, it was their first magnetic box, so they were planning on getting the other ones right next to it.
Well, here come I'm looking forward to Guns and Guts. I can see why somebody would not like the films of Rene Cardona, but I think they're kind of interesting to look at.
Yep, I get it. This is kind of a big one. Yeah. We are getting The Incredible Melting Man from 1977 in 4K. This is another one that was recent. Well, not recently. It was also put out on Blu-ray from Scream Factory. It is now long out of print, a couple of years now. Really great looking slipcover, in my opinion, on this one. Lends itself to the title very, very well. Incredible Melting Man is genuinely a fantastic movie. So this is one that I'm glad is getting a nice upgrade. Have you seen this one?
I saw the Mystery Science Theater version. It was on season 7, the last season on Comedy Central, the shortened season. But so I've always wanted to see the uncut version, and I never got a chance to look at the Shout Factory. So I'm really excited about this. It's going to be gross,
oh yeah,
because of course the Mystery Science Theater, all the gross stuff is kind of cut out. So I'm really, I'm giddy. I feel like a little kid about this one.
This is a 4K UHD, and then there is a Region A locked Blu-ray in the set as well. Of course, we have HDR on it, newly scanned and restored in 4K from the OCN. We got a commentary with the director, new interview with the director, new interview with the script supervisor, and then some small archival featurettes in there. But the cool thing, this is just genuinely a great movie. This is the one that they were hinting at for a while of a 4K release of a classic drive-in title. People were speculating on this one for a long time, and it really fits the bill for this and seems right up there with some of the best releases from Vinegar Syndrome. Love this movie. I don't know why, but I'm a big fan of I hate using this word because some people don't like it, but a big fan of goopy movies.
Oh yeah.
So like Body Melt that they put out is one of my not like top 10 from Vinegar Syndrome, because they put out some really great stuff, but Body Melt is fantastic. Stuff like Street Trash is amazing, of course. Yeah, some of these goopy movies, that's like Day of the Dead. I really love the ending of that because it just gets so gross.
I'm with you on that. That's I share that.
Ice says this is the best release of August, which is interesting.
Maybe.
And that is leading us to what is probably not the best release of August. We are getting The Birds 2 Land's End from 1994. And some people very unhappy that this is getting any sort of release. But again, as I say, everything deserves some sort of release. Jeff, damn it, goopy is definitely a genre. We just made it a genre. This is I've never seen this one. It's directed by Rick Rosenthal. It's supposed to be god awful, but it's probably really fun to laugh at. Ted and Mary have just moved with their 2 young daughters to the sleepy coastal town of Gull Island so that Ted can complete work on his thesis. Everything couldn't seem more picturesque about their new seaside home. That is, except for the increasing number of aggressively behaving birds. After surviving an unprovoked nighttime avian invasion, Ted becomes determined to figure out the cause of their unusual behavior. An investigation which leads him to uncover the sinister goings-on in the nearby waters. All the while, the birds increase their now deadly attacks, moving up from family pets to human victims. This is never released on disc previously. Vinegar Syndrome brings this notorious sequel to Blu-ray, newly restored from the 35, interpositive and featuring comprehensive interviews with the cast and crew. We get a 54-minute extensive making of documentary called Don't Remake Hitchcock, featuring interviews with the cast and crew. Then a 17-minute interview with the composer and a locations featurette with the production assistant Craig Edwards. Commentary track on top of that with film historians Amanda Reyes. And I don't want to make fun of this, but if this is a real name, Sam, I mean, how do you have a name like Sam Pancake and not jump into something like commentary tracks? That's amazing. Stan wants to say it is nigh unwatchable.
I'd say Stan is probably right, but it's coming. So I'm going to check it out.
Dude McMahon says, my heart sunk when I saw the rumors about Birds 2 was true. What a tremendous waste of time and talent.
Yeah.
Yikes. I've never seen the Birds 2. Is this one of your favorites there, Will?
I've not seen the Birds 2. I am glad that, as I said before, when we were talking about I'm Dangerous tonight, I'm really glad that so many television films are getting released because obviously there's going to be a lot of stuff that is of lesser quality, just like with anything else. But if it opens the possibility for some work by directors that we love, like Tobe Hooper, Wes Craven, so many people who worked in television. I have not seen The Birds 2. I had an opportunity to see it when it came out on cable. I chose not to. That was a decision I made at the time. The televised terror set was really good. I will not fault Vinegar Syndrome for putting it out. They had the opportunity. They calculate they can make a little profit on it, and if that helps out in future things, then I support it. I'm going to check it out just because I've never seen it, but I definitely take the warnings in mind, and I'll have a backup film ready to go if I can't make it through.
Smart. Possibly the most exciting thing that came out of what, wow, that's a whole lot of spam. Let me delete that. Sorry.
That was I think a representation of the Birds 2.
That makes sense. This came out of nowhere. I don't think there was any rumors or anything about this. We are getting what they are calling Summerfest 2022. And some of their verbiage here is interesting. It says, this will be a film preservation sales event from August 19th through August 21st. A select group of titles will be 50% off. There will be 1 new VSA, 2 new Peakorama titles, 2 catalog slipcovers, and new merch. And These are all things that if you're a sub, you're going to have to buy separately. Those are not going to be included in your subscription at all. But the whole film preservation focused sales event is an interesting take on that.
Yeah, and the wording is a little vague because when it says select group of titles, does that mean titles that have already been released, or is this new stuff that's being announced that they have been working on? It's unclear.
Even more odd is I didn't copy over their verbiage directly, but it did say something along the lines of from our archive specifically, which means, I mean, first of all, for those that don't know, Vinegar Syndrome has literally one of the largest archives in the entire U.S. They have a ton of titles. Them, AGFA, and a handful of others, they are up there with some of the biggest. And they have a lot of stuff in their archive that they've not released. And just the way they worded that, it made it sound like there was going to be some stuff that they have either not released previously or titles that are not going to be Vinegar Syndrome titles or something. So I'm very curious to see what leads from this.
That's my initial interpretation too. So, hey, they're doing their job right? They got it. They're making us curious and racking our brains about it, and then when it comes out, we'll be like, okay, I'm doing it.
By the way, the Picaramas that they're putting out, supposedly one of them is 4K again. So I think that'll be the third or fourth Picarama title in 4K, which is crazy. Absolutely crazy. I'm so glad they're doing that, though.
Yeah.
Now we get into where a lot of people get most excited nowadays, and that is all of the partner labels. Video Store wanted to say currently being preserved, which is what they said about their archive. It implies it is yet unreleased, which is exactly what I first thought. So we shall see. I also wanted to point out Christian's Hobby Blog says we need a remaster slipcover of Pale Blood, Malabimba, and 9 Lives of a Wet Pussy. I don't know if that's an inside joke, but just in case it's not, they have said they will not re-release slipcovers for anything. So Pale Blood, Malabimba, and 9 Lives, I believe all three are sold out. Those are gone for good, sadly.
Yeah, all good titles. I'm a huge fan of Pale Blood.
I was going to say, Pale Blood is, for me, by far the best there. Malabimba is actually surprisingly great, too, but Pale Blood is a very unique film. And I really like, I hate to rub salt in the wound here, but really like the slipcover they done on that, too. It looks really nice in the hand.
Yeah, I've got the slipcover, too.
This first one, After Blue, Dirty Paradise from Altered Innocence. This is from 2021. This is the front of the slip. And here is the backside, one of the more artistic-looking slips from Altered Innocence. Have you dabbled into any of the Altered Innocence titles? You into them at all?
Oh yeah, several of them. Let me pull up a couple of their titles. I got a work computer, but Vinegar Syndrome they block on my work computer, so I had to pull up the laptop. Yeah, I just actually ordered the Jack Be Nimble.
Nice.
I really like Pals. I like Aribato, Death of Nintendo. Wild Tigers I've known is pretty good too. So yeah, several of their releases I've enjoyed.
I think Knife Plus Heart is still my favorite from them, and then Adoration is just a beautiful movie overall.
Yeah.
What's going on, All That Is Man? Happy you're here, Brian. Christian's Hobby Blog says the commentary for 9 Lives is awesome.
Wait, that's Deegan, right?
I believe so. I think she's on a couple of the adult titles. She's done so much stuff.
Well, that's one of those, like we were talking about before, where the commentary track really contextualizes the film and advocates for it, because otherwise,
I agree there. This one seems really interesting for Altered Innocence. Just for the first couple sentences here, it says, in a faraway future on a wild and untamed female-inhabited planet called After Blue, a lonely teenager named Roxy unknowingly releases a mystical, dangerous, and sensual assassin from her prison. I mean, that alone, that's a kind of a wild premise already. This is directed by Bertrand Mandico, which has gotten a lot of releases seemingly this year, with the Apocalypse After set coming from Mondo Macabro, and then Altered Innocence. Same thing. Ragnar says, could be wrong, but isn't Altered Innocence a gay and lesbian inspired films? I believe what they've said is it like caters towards the queer community at least. So there's a lot there for sure. This one, like I said, from 2021, it's a Region A locked Blu-ray. We've got unseen footage by the director. There's a short film by the director on here, and then a 20-page booklet. Again, so glad that a lot of these partner labels are suddenly doing more booklets, because they help so much to contextualize what you can't do on some of these with, you know, featurettes.
Yeah, it's nice timing too, with the sort of resurrection of Kate Bush thanks to Stranger Things. I have to assume that this is inspired by the real Kate Bush. The character, the murderer character, is named Kate Bush in this film. Described as a lesbian El Topo in space. Yeah, that's worth watching. I'll check that out.
Immediately worth watching. Yeah. This is
sure.
Stunning 35 millimeter in-camera practical effects, otherworldly set pieces, and a dazzling score. So yeah, there is a lot on the bone here for this one for me. This seems very, very interesting. Next up is one that is brand new to the list of partner labels. This is a title called The Corn Shucker, and it's spelled differently, as you'll see there. This is the backside of the slip. This is from 1997 and is only 63 minutes long, from the new partner label VHS Hit Fest. Supposedly, I believe they used to be called VHS Shit Fest.
Yeah, that's how I read it.
And I think that was on purpose. VHS has been uncovering and releasing movies on video for over a decade across DVD and VHS. Now they are moving on to Blu-ray with the same goal to showcase the most unique, crazy, and obscure movies that they have discovered through years of collecting VHS, allowing even more people to actually be able to experience these nearly lost gems in the best versions possible. Now, this was, a lot of people thought this was originally an SOV film. This was actually shot on 16 millimeter. So it is worthy of an upgrade in that front. And then on top of that, we've got some other stuff coming up. We got an audio commentary, an interview, a music video, and a whole bunch of others on here. But yeah, this looks like an interesting introduction to a new partner label. Any thoughts on lost VHS films?
Well, you know, no. I really appreciate. I know this is shot on 16, but I've really appreciated some of the titles that like Saturn's Core has released, and he had a great interview with who was it, Ross?
Ross Schneider.
That was fantastic. You know, I remember as a kid renting stuff like Cannibal Hookers and Cannibal Campout, you know, SOV stuff. The fact that this is shot on 16, really, I'm interested in seeing what it looks like. I have a lot of corn shucking based jokes just from where I grew up that are probably not safe for the channel, but
lay 'em on me. I'm all ears.
Oh shit.
On top of the 16 millimeter, this is also shot in really weird looking black and white, super unique. So yeah. I'm really interested on seeing what this is going to look like on disc.
Yeah, it looks odd. So let's take a look at it.
The story behind this one, it says the corn shucker is a mythical creature who has lived simply and peacefully with nature, but now he is besieged by urban sprawl. With nowhere else to go, he is forced to deal with varmints and outlandishly odd townsfolk.
Well, this is the same story as Pompoko.
Oh, I can't wait to see the corn shucker's balls. Oh man, almost messed myself up there. As his food supply diminishes, the corn shucker is confronted by the bigoted old man Thomas.
Okay.
In an act of desperation, the corn shucker is forced to do the unthinkable. His existence is in peril, and the mysterious world he inhabits could be destroyed. Only nature and the townsfolk will decide his fate.
Swear to God, man, that's Pompoco. But okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one later, I'm sure, at some point.
We should,
Go ahead.
when it comes out, we should do a whole show just corn shucker analysis.
I might be down for that. Let's see what it actually is, if there's enough to put it down. This one is Speak of the Devil. We just talked about Saturn's Core. Dead North from 1991, and really shot on video inspired slipcover on this one, which I tend to love. I think it looks pretty great on the slip here. And again, Saturn's Core just doing great work. 1991, when three couples escape to the woods together for a weekend camping trip, their idyllic vacation quickly becomes a desperate struggle for survival when a deranged axe-wielding psychopath begins murdering them one by one. An impossible web of marital infidelities leads to a meandering mosaic of endless red herrings, deranged nom-vets, bitter office rivalries, perilous punji pits, and puffy brown plaid couches. First off, I want to give another tip of the hat to the wonderful copywriters at Vinegar Syndrome and their partner labels. It's probably all at OCN because, oh man, they do some great jobs every single month.
Yeah, they truly capture the right tone, you know.
In the tradition of Blood Cult, Dead North is a hypnotic shot-on-video soap opera slasher epic. Never said those words together, I don't think. And an early non-custom passion project from director Gary Whitson and his New Jersey-based company, Wave Productions. Dead North continues to stupefy underground movie fans with its beguiling blend of head-scratching whodunit, homespun gore effects, and charming regional eccentricities. Again, this is a Wave film from 1991, and the term Wave Productions turns off a lot of people. But this is not one of those custom films, so it might be a little more tolerable for you on that front.
Well, I hope so, since it features a feature-length remake of so you don't watch the movie once, you get to see it twice.
And if you want to watch it even more, there's audio commentary with the director, moderated by Ross Schneider, co-director of Mail Order Murder, who was on this channel earlier. Audio commentary with Richard Moog, author of Analog Nightmares, the shot-on-video horror films from 82 to 95. Interview with Gary Whitson himself. And then The Pineland Murders, directed by director Gary Whitson's 2012 feature-length remake, like it was just said, from 2012. That's wild. The Hanging Judge, a 1991 custom short from Wave, featuring the cast of Dead North, and it's 45 minutes long. Crushed, Gary Whitson's 1995 short featuring Dead North stars Clancy McCauley and Avon Warren. And Lunch Meat Midnight Snack, a 28-page booklet featuring rare vintage news articles, plus writings by a handful of people. That's really cool that they're putting this out.
So cool. You know, I had a student close to a decade ago who was really into SOV, did a whole project for class and really proselytized the virtues of SOV filmmaking to me. And I wish he were able to be here now, because there's so much more that you gotta have access to, plus with all the extras and the real respect given. You know, making a movie is hard.
It is.
I have nothing but respect.
I want to throw out another thing that I mentioned, and Ross and I talked about in our interview on Saturn's Core stuff, that these films, yes, they're shot on video, and so a lot of people scoff at why are we getting them on Blu-ray? They can't look any better. I understand that, but also look at everything that is on this disc, because this is not something that you could ever see in a package, you know, on VHS or even in the heyday of DVDs, because there's so much content coming in this package that is just astounding.
Yeah. You know, anybody who can convince their friends, coworkers, family members to work on these films is a character, you know, and I want to know about them.
Not only that, and then have them come back for a couple shorts after because they didn't hate the first experience enough.
Yeah.
And it just continues and continues. First off, I'll throw out there, as much as we're going to talk about this film, this slipcover is already sold out, and it is the 4th of August. We are getting from Yellow Veil Pictures Faults from 2014. Nice looking slip here that nobody else is able to purchase. The front and back here looks decent. This says Claire is under the grip of a mysterious new cult called Faults. Desperate to be reunited with their daughter, Claire's parents recruit one of the world's foremost experts on mind control, Ansel Roth, to kidnap and deprogram her. However, once the process is underway, Ansel realizes he may not be the one in control, which just sounds freaking incredible to me. This one is directed by Riley Stearns, which is making a bit of an impact lately. He just put out the film Duel on Blu-ray. A lot of people loving Riley stuff recently.
He's a good Austin, Texas fella, yeah.
And then, of course, we are getting a whole bunch of stuff on here. We get the original cast commentary from 2015 with the cast, which includes Mary Elizabeth Winstead and the director, and then a new crew commentary from 2022 with the DP, Michael Reagan, the editor, and the director, of course. Reprogramming Faults, an interview with the director, a deprogramming fault, discussion on cult deprogramming between Lola Blanc, cult survivor turned filmmaker, and director Riley Stearns, which that just sounds incredibly fascinating to me. Riley Stearns' Sundance selected short film called The Cub from 2013, and then a transcribed discussion between the director Alex Ross Perry from Her Smell and then director Riley Stearns in an illustrated 12-page booklet, which is an interesting idea to include on here.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm sad that I missed the slipcovers, but I'm going to check it out.
It went very quickly, and this month was a little odd because they had 4 or 5 titles that were only limited to 1,000, which has seemingly been happening a little more lately. And this has been an element of discussion. And as a subscriber, I'll ask you, because the subscriber totals, they've been raising the totals on how many they're printing for the last couple of years. So a couple of years, well, not a couple of years ago now, 5 years ago now, a lot of them were only limited to 1,000 to 1,500 because Vinegar Syndrome was so small. And now we're getting titles with 10,000 slipcovers, and it's a big change. Now, these 1,000 limit on the partner labels, do you think that is, I'll use the word nefarious. Do you think it is in any way OCN trying to get people to buy titles that they wouldn't otherwise purchase?
I mean, it would be nefarious for sure if they print 1,000, kind of create an artificial shortage and then print another 1,000,
Right.
But so far, I don't think I've seen any of that. Have you seen any of that?
They've never done that. And I've heard this sort of argument of they're just trying to get people to buy these, which,
yeah,
I mean, you don't have to buy them.
One thing that I would like, and I don't mean to be snooty or anything, but part of the reason to do the subscriber package is to kind of be part of that, inside group that's going to get stuff, before everybody else, and the more titles are printed, the less exclusive the club is, and so there's
right.
that could hurt the incentive. I'm still going to remain a subscriber. I support Vinegar Syndrome. I'm repping them with my T-shirt tonight. But I wonder if it's possible for them to create a second subscriber option, like a partner label subscription, that might, kind of recapture that feeling of being in a small select club of people who throw away all the money they would have bought Christmas presents for their family with in November, and I'd probably be one of them.
I think La Liberty has come out and said that they can't do that just because not all of it is planned so far in advance. But I think it would be really interesting if they made a way to say you're able to get 50 titles and you just choose them throughout the year, email us and we'll add it to it, and it's just a very specific total. However, they would have to say like this title is a box set and it's not able to be chosen or
Right.
something like that.
Right. Well, something like that. Maybe they can think about it down the road. It's hard. Like if you're a completist, and I get pretty obsessive about completism with labels. It's really hard to keep up with partner label titles. That's not really a complaint because I'm so happy that so many of these films are getting, nice releases and getting that kind of attention. But it's tough. It's tough to keep up.
Well, on top of that, I mean, there's 22 partner labels now, so that is an astonishing number. And some months we're getting 15 new titles, so a subscription would be just insane. But also, just to incentivize the Vinegar Syndrome subscription, that's why it's also good to be a subscriber, because you always get these partner label titles at the 50% off sales price.
Yeah, and that's a real godsend, especially because of the next title that I've already ordered.
All right, so Faults looks and sounds pretty dang good. And the next one, we are getting the films of Doris Wishman, The Moonlight Years. And this is one of the side-loading sets. It's got the magnet in it to capture, the same first set that they put out. Good God, another one. Come on. This one is called The Moonlight Years because it's from 1965 to 1969. And I believe they said in the interview they did with me, which, by the way, you need to watch that because it's pretty incredible what they talk about. I believe this is going to be the biggest of the three sets. And then they also said that in 2023, they're going to be putting out another standalone outside of those three sets through AGFA from Doris Wishman.
Ooh. Well, this one has some of her most important titles. Bad Girls Go to Hell is the other film that I always show. And I'm a big fan of Another Day, Another Man, Indecent Desires too. So, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Go ahead and give the introduction.
There is so much in here. As you can probably see here, 623 minutes of combined film. We are getting, what is this? I think it's 3 discs. Yeah, a 3-disc release. The first one has Bad Girls Go to Hell from 65, Indecent Desires from 68, and A Taste of Flesh from 67. And then disc 2 has Another Day, Another Man from 66, My Brother's Wife from 66, and Passion Fever from 69. Then disc 3 has The Sex Perils of Paulette from 65, The Hot Month of August from 66, and Too Much, Too Often from 68. Now, one complaint I've seen people say is that we are only getting some of the SVHS masters, and they're not able to get any better film masters that they're able to remaster, unfortunately, which I do get. Thankfully, we are able to get a commentary with Frank Henenlotter on Bad Girls Go to Hell. And then we got a commentary with queer film historian Liz Purcell for Indecent Desires. Then a booklet with writing from Lisa Petrucci, which is a big, big deal to be able to get that in this. Then My Brother's Wife gets a commentary from Wishman biographer Michael Bowen, and a photo gallery on that one as well. And then finally, The Sex Perils of Paulette gets a commentary from Lisa Petrucci herself. I'm so stoked that she is still involved and able to do something like this, because she does not have to at all.
I'm, complaints about quality aside, I'm just so glad that these are getting released at all. Wishman is such a unique and fascinating story, and a lot of her films are surprisingly cool and interesting and weird. So this is great.
A lot of them are also a lot more relevant and timely than people think, because she was very much an outlier at the time. So this is one that is going to be bringing a lot of people onto a completely different level of understanding Doris Wishman than you've ever thought possible, considering what they're packaging together. I do agree with Flickering Waves here. He says, I'm all about the Wishman box sets, but I think the third box may prove to be my favorite. I think that third box may prove to be maybe the most accessible to a lot of people, and possibly at least the one that they remember the most.
Cool. I'm all for that. Every year when I teach Bad Girls Go to Hell, several students get obsessed with Wishman.
Nice.
And then when they check out films like Let Me Die a Woman and discover that these kinds of stories and these kinds of conversations and obviously the language has changed over time, but the fact that someone was trying to tell these stories, even if it's someone in an exploitive way, we just really respond to that. Like, oh, I had no idea there was this whole, world of cinema that Michael Bay didn't make.
Exactly. And what's really exciting to me is that this is eventually going to turn into basically a single cohesive collection that will rival some of the bigger ones like that Severn has put out with the Milligan and the Ray Dennis Steckler and all of these, because it's going to have almost all of her films across the three, and then whatever the standalone releases, which if you know Wishman's filmography, there's a couple guesses you could throw out there, because they're really not going to be missing that much as soon as they're done. I'm curious, because also we could get a Peakorama title from Vinegar Syndrome with a couple of the missing ones.
Well, she denied she ever made any of those kinds of films.
We shall see.
I hope
Doris Wishman, though. Go ahead.
I just hope they manage to somehow get Dildo Heaven.
God, yeah, I really hope so. Again, to kind of visualize how much is in this set, here is the listing on the back of all of the titles. Again, it is a 3-disc set, and really, really important to really just dive into her filmography if you have that first set and just keep it going, because there's still a third set coming this year as well. Moving right along, we are getting from Gunpowder and Sky, Hearts Beat Loud, which is from 2018 and possibly a little more mainstream than people were expecting. I'm really glad, because I didn't get the first Blu-ray release, and I've actually been wanting to see this for quite some time. This is the front of the slip, and then here is the back. This movie stars Nick Offerman, Kiersey Clemens, Blythe Danner, one of my favorite actors of all time, possibly, Toni Collette, Sasha Lane, and Ted Danson. This is basically about a single dad and a record store owner named Frank, who is trying to connect with his, I believe, daughter a little bit more. So the father and daughter start to perform together, and it's basically just a feel-good music movie, which really speaks to who I am. I can't wait to see this for the first time finally. Have you seen this one?
No, it seems sweet, and as somebody who's about to we're about to send our oldest daughter to college here in a couple weeks, and kind of dealing with the emotional impact of that. I don't know. I might have trouble getting through this one.
So this one has all kinds of new stuff, which is really unexpected. We got a new feature-length audio commentary with the director and a co-writer and composer recorded this year. New interview with the director recorded this year. New interview with Nick Offerman recorded this year. And then a feature-length audio commentary with the director. Interview from a few years ago. We even got Toni Collette interview on here, and just a bunch of stuff. We're getting a lot of the behind the scenes, all kinds of stuff. Plus then a booklet featuring a new essay by writer BJ Colangelo, like I mentioned earlier. Great stuff.
Yeah, it's a killer cast. I don't know anything about it. I'm kind of surprised I hadn't heard anything about it with that cast.
It definitely flew under the radar quite a bit.
Oh, and the director, I just looked him up because I thought his name looked familiar. Graduate of the North Carolina School of the Arts, right down the road from me in Winston-Salem. So
nice.
Now I have to check it out because he's a hometown guy.
Let's see what else we got because we are barely getting started. From Canadian International Pictures, we are getting The Kid Brother. Here is the front of the horizontal slip, and here is the back. Now, this is one that some people are championing so hard, and I have never seen this, but good gosh, after reading everything on this, I can't wait to watch this. This says, going through life without legs, 13-year-old Kenny Easterday is playing a version of himself in this film.
Wow.
Is active and enthusiastic, resisting the pressure to wear prosthetic limbs. He also finds himself the subject of a documentary made by a visiting French film crew. As the production unfolds, Kenny's parents, brother, and absentee sister bring long simmering tensions to the surface, shaking Kenny's delicate sense of balance. Determined to better understand his place in the world, he hits the road for a daring journey of self-discovery at the age of 13. And just to sell it a little bit more, Canadian International says an unprecedented cinematic achievement that has earned acclaim, awards, and disbelief all over the world, while remaining largely unknown in North America. The Kid Brother is a one-of-a-kind coming-of-age triumph. In his one and only film role, Kenny Easterday lights up the screen with an infectiously appealing performance full of charm and playful abandon. This is going to be a scan in 4K from the OCN, restored by Elephant, Memoire du Cinéma, French, whatever, with sound transferred and restored from the original 35mm magnetic film 4-track final mix, which is really cool. They don't always go that extra step there. We've got an audio commentary featuring author and film historian and Canadian Kirla Janice and writer film critic Ralph Elawani. And then from 2022, a 33-minute interview with the writer and director. Then also from this year, an interview with Gagnon's longtime producing partner, Yuri Yoshimura Gagnon. And then 9-minute long memories from the film's international festival tour. Then again, a booklet featuring Rick Tremble's motion picture Purgatory comic strip on the film, and a new interview with co-star Jesse Easterday Jr. You know anything about Kenny?
I remember vaguely, well, not vaguely because I remember him, but I remember he used to be on the Jerry Springer show as a guest, not one of the, redneck fights shows, but what, when they would kind of get, a little bit exploitive because it'd be like the inspirational story type of stuff. But I remember him being a guest, and that's about it. He died not too long ago, a few years ago. Kenny Easterday did, Easterday, which is sad, of course. But so yeah, I'm really interested in this. I'd never heard of this one.
He had to have been pretty young, probably 40s-ish.
Yeah, early 40s.
Very interesting. Alrighty, next one from Enjoy the Ride Records, another one that I had on here for an interview. This is one that screams something I have to watch, and very soon. We are getting Low Sound Desert from 2015, 2 chapters on rock music. This is a documentary by Jörg Steineck about the rock music scene in the low desert of California. What was started by revolting punk rock kids hidden from narrow-minded authorities of suburban desert communities in the early 80s gave birth to bands like Caius and Queens of the Stone Age. With its unique artistic approach, the film provides a deep, intimate insight and captures the attitude of the Coachella Valley's music scene. From jamming all night in the middle of a surreal desert landscape to headlining European stages, desert rock continued its underground spread and became international treasure. Low Sound Desert is narrated by Josh Homme, Mario Lally, Brant Bjork, Alfredo Hernandez, Scott Reeder, Sean Wheeler, and many more from bands like Caius, Queens of the Stone Age, Yawning Man, Fatso Jetson, Mondo Generator, among others. This is going to be region free, and then they've got an hour of additional footage on here. And I grew up in California and grew up in the music scene. I did not get to anything in this area. I never really went anywhere near the Coachella area. Never went among Palm Springs, nothing like that. So I am super curious to dive into this.
Oh man, that's the same daughter that we're about to send to college. I just got into Caius, and I'm proud of myself for doing so, because They kill it. Queens of the Stone Age evolved out of that band. I'm really interested in who the Among Others are going to be, right? The other bands, the stoner rock and punk rock bands, and how far south are they going? Are they getting into like some of the Arizona bands too, like Meat Puppets and stuff like that? I wonder. I don't know.
It could be. I mean, they're very close to the Arizona border there for sure.
No, I'm definitely going to get into this one.
Sardis says, I passed because I never heard of any of these musicians. I highly recommend checking out Caius and Queens of the Stone Age specifically.
Right.
Queens of the Stone Age has, ever since they started putting out music, man, they speak to my soul.
Yep. You got the groove, man.
Next up, a big title from Fun City Editions with the man Hal Holbrook. This is Natural Enemies from 1979. What do you feel about Fun City and Hal Holbrook there, Will?
Love Hal Holbrook. Just watched him and his boy recently in Girls' Night Out, their slasher movie. I like that this release is advertised as, coming from the director of Revenge of the Nerds and Troop Beverly Hills.
Yep.
Which is, for my generation, that's like, oh, awesome. So I've never heard of Natural Enemies. I loved Revenge of the Nerds growing up. Still love parts of that movie. Other parts have not aged well. But Troop Beverly Hills has been a family classic for our family for a long time. So
same.
Yeah, this looks really interesting to me. Oh, Louise Fletcher's in it? Cool.
The plot on this one, too, sounds wild. It says, what causes a man who seemingly has everything, a thriving business and family, to snap and throw it all away? It's the question that this provocative and intelligent psychological drama investigates. Successful New York Magazine publisher Paul Stewart has reached his breaking point, and today is the day he has decided to kill himself, his wife, and their children.
Holy shit.
His marriage to Miriam has grown cold and distant. On this final day, he seeks the answers that might relieve him of his despair through encounters with a psychiatrist, an astronaut, a friend who survived the Holocaust, 5 prostitutes in a brothel, and a lonely woman on the train ride home. I mean, I have to see that.
That's a hell of a day.
Go ahead.
So this is the movie that would have happened if the parents in Troop Beverly Hills had not gotten divorced.
Yeah, this is 10 years later. Video Store says Natural Enemies is a great film. It's like if Michael Haneke directed Save the Tiger.
Oh wow, they should get that on the back of the box. That's a pretty good endorsement.
Interesting. So this is region free. New 2K restoration from the 35mm deposit print held at the Library of Congress. Booklet with a new essay by Jason Bailey. Newly recorded audio commentary by Bill Ackerman of the Supporting Characters podcast. And then a newly filmed 2-part video interview with the director, Jeff Canoe. And then there's a video introduction by that director on there, which, man, this is great. I am so glad that this is getting a new release. Again, a director that people knew for completely other types of films, and I cannot wait to see this.
And that cover art is boss.
It is perfect. And then this is the backside.
Oh, and it goes around. It's going through her head.
Yep.
God, I love the prostitutes on top of the.
The quote here on the back: today, Paul Stewart is planning to kill his wife, his children, and himself. They are not messing around with this.
No, not even any commas. This is going straight through.
Dude says, happy to see early Jeff Canoe getting some attention. He's kind of underrated just because he'll always be the Revenge of the Nerds guy, which nowadays that's not always a positive thing, unfortunately. But yeah, I agree. I do think that he's been overlooked a little bit for some of this, and he's got a bit of a filmography. It's something that's not been dipped into too many times.
Yeah, this might lead to a resurgence. I'm gonna start checking out his back catalog now.
And again, Fun City has been just crushing it with their releases. They are almost at 100%. I think there's one or two titles that a lot of people have been hit or miss on, especially like Billitus. A lot of people did not like.
Oh, Morver Collar, fantastic! I was so happy they put that out. Coca-Cola Kid. I mean, yeah, you're right. And they did the Primetime Panic. I think Christian was mentioning in the chat. A lot of good titles in that catalog.
Fantastic for sure. Next up, from Canny or Connie, however you say it out loud, Robinson's Garden from 1987, which, first of all, one of the most vibrant slipcovers we've seen in quite some time. Very, very interesting colors here. This says, on a drunken walk home, bohemian drug dealer Kumi discovers an abandoned building on the outskirts of Tokyo. Attracted by the vast and untapped space rampant with luxuriant vegetation, she promptly sells all of her belongings and retreats from the world. She carves an island out of the concrete squat and whiles her days away growing cabbage and expressing herself in any way she pleases. This one is going to be a Region A locked release. We've got a couple of interviews on here, new art, and then new writing by K.F. Watanabe. Very interesting. Very interesting for sure.
I'm super interested in the fact that Tom DiCillo, I can never remember how to pronounce his name, shot this. I mean, obviously the films listed there, Living in Oblivion, Johnny Sway, several others. Really good. And yeah, that it's kind of propped up in that early to mid 80s punk no wave scene sounds pretty interesting. That slipcover looks like the Trapper Keeper I had when I was a kid. I'm kind of entranced by it.
Yep. Flickering Wave says that Robinson Garden slip would make for a wild shirt. Sure. Man, it would look like a perfect 90s shirt, especially if they really use that left side.
Yeah. Cool, man.
Let's see. 2 of Jeff Canoe's films are in the going out of print sale at Kino, says Dude McMahon. That's interesting. Which ones, dude, if you don't mind sharing? So we can tell everybody there. Next up, this is the one coming from Culture Shock releasing. This is Streets of Death from 1987. Here is the front of the slip, and here is the back. The censoring is by me. It will be uncensored when you get this slip. This says, in dumpsters, in the gutters, and even hanging from hooks, the streets of Los Angeles are being littered with murdered sex workers, as you do. A sinister John with a sizable wallet is tempting desperate women into dangerous traps. If the police cannot find the killer, then who will? Maybe it will be a former detective, or perhaps it will be a couple of guys shooting a documentary about prostitution. I know nothing about this one. This is Region Free. Interview with the director is on here. Interview with actor Larry Thomas, who you may recognize as the Soup Nazi.
And Tommy Kirk, Old Yeller.
Tommy Kirk, yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, this one is, we also got a full-length commentary by Movie Melt, Grindhouse, and Exploitation Podcast. I've not listened to them, so I'm not sure how that's going to be.
Wow.
Let's see. Dude McMahon answered and said, Tough Guys and V.I. Wachowski are the ones that are in the Kino going out of print sale. Good to know. Thank you, dude.
Well,
let's see. Somehow missed Robinson's Garden. Sounds like my type of movie. Also going to have to go back to get Kid Brother, Natural Enemies, and this. It's just a solid. The hard thing is it's a solid month every single month right now.
It really is.
And somehow we're still not done. Summer of Blood is coming from Factory 25, which I got to admit, the stuff that they keep putting out is it can be a little odd and a little varied, but they are doing some great work over at Factory 25. They're the ones that did Other Music and then the Oregonian and a couple others. They're still a fairly new partner label. Here's the front and the back of the slip here. Interesting back. I'll leave that one there for a second. This says writer-director Oner Tukel turns in a hilarious performance as the monumentally lazy, socially oblivious, and commitment-shy Eric Sparrow, who is dumped by his career woman girlfriend when he rejects her rather charitable marriage proposal. Feeling lost, he turns to a disastrous string of online dates that successively eat away at his already deteriorating confidence until a lanky vampire turns him into an undead lady killer with a maniacal sex drive matched only by his frenzied need to feed on blood. A collision of absurd, self-deprecating wit and existential curiosity, Summer of Blood is a hilarious horror comedy with a clever bite all its own. This is from 2014, region free. We got 2 different commentaries by the director and main star on here. Something really cool. We got a 29-minute vampire interview with Larry Fessenden, and then a 25-minute vampire interview with somebody named Lloyd Kaufman.
I wish they were together.
Yeah. That would have been cool. We got some behind the scenes, some deleted scenes, some trailers in here, and then again, another booklet. We got a 24-page illustrated booklet with essays by Simon Bacon and the director.
I got to mention Simon Bacon, whose work I'm familiar with. He's a really knowledgeable scholar, especially on all things vampire. He's written 150 books about vampires. Not really that many, but a lot. And the guy knows his stuff. Really fun to work with. So that's worth the price of admission right there.
I don't know what it is, but there's been a lot of stuff brought up about vampires lately. So I'm glad that we're getting more about this. Again, it's a genre that seems to go in cycles, and we seem to be in a little lull for vampire films right now. So I'm glad we're getting this.
Yeah, it goes zombie, vampire, and then every now and then there's a werewolf movie. I actually wrote an essay. I actually wrote an essay in Film International several years ago about zombies and vampires from Reagan to Trump, and how the films kind of evolved in that period. And it really is a cycle. It was really interesting doing the research, seeing which films and television shows were coming out when. Right now, zombies are making most of the money, but the vampires are still kicking.
Zombies have been hot pretty much ever since Shaun of the Dead-ish.
Yeah.
And they just won't go away. They're relentless.
Where they really make money is video games.
Yeah.
Not a lot. Zombies are better for video games. Vampires are more difficult. You can get great stuff like Castlevania, but you can't do the shoot 'em ups.
That's very true. I mean, that original Left 4 Dead video game from 15 years ago or so, that game was so great.
Yeah.
Well, we got a few more left here, I think, or maybe it's just 1 or 2. From Utopia. You know what? I think this is the last one. This is You Can't Kill Meme. You Can't Kill Meme from 2020. This is a film by Haley Garrigus, I think it's pronounced. This is the back of the slip here. Oh. This is a hybrid documentary feature film about the genesis of memetic magic and its application by the alt-right in the United States. This is going to have a 60-minute Q&A from the Fantasia Festival. It's a region-free blue, but other than that, not a lot on this disc. I'm curious to see this doc, though. I've not seen this one.
This seems pretty crucial to the times, and now that I know what it's about, the cover makes a lot more sense.
A whole lot more sense, yeah. Let's see. It's starring Sean Bell, Billy Brujo, Carol Michaela, Kirk R. Packwood, and Nick Peterson. Yeah, I've not even heard of this one, but this sounds pretty great. And that was it for partner labels. So again, a strong month. I believe we are up to 22 different Vinegar Syndrome partner labels right now, which every single month we talk about. It's a lot to keep up on. But again, the quality, it's not taking away from anything by having 22 partner labels. They are all doing great work. Most of them are, I can't even say that. I think there's a good 5 or 7 of them that don't put out stuff all that often. And then there's a good 11 to 14 of them that seem to release at least one title every month. So it's very great to see what we're getting from all these.
Yeah, and really for people who really want to seek out films that they don't know a lot about, it's so nice to have Vinegar Syndrome as a hub that collects all this stuff together, because so much easier than tracking things down on their own. So major appreciation to Vinegar Syndrome for that.
Great question from Video Store. I am right in assuming if something is region free, it probably won't see a release in other territories. Not 100% of the time, but that is, I'm going to say that is generally true. There are some exceptions to that, especially when we see things like the Air 444 release that was tied in with the Third Window Films release of the Wicked Forest, and the other one that came with that. Those, I believe, are both region free because they work together. So it was timed. It came out at near the exact same time, and no matter where you got it, you're getting mostly the same content. But really, it's all about the licensor. Some of them just plain don't care, and it seems like Australia gets a lot of region free releases of titles that are coming out elsewhere. So it's not always correct, but usually. Next up, got a few more left. I mentioned earlier, I put out an interview with the guys from AGFA, and I think it's a pretty good one. Spend some time with that if you haven't. They do talk about stuff coming out over the next year or so. They drop a couple things that they're working on, which are pretty exciting, and they haven't mentioned it elsewhere, so a little exclusive there. But things that are getting re-released, we mentioned the Kino Lorber Mill Creek re-releases. This is another one coming out. Eyes of Lower Mars from 1978. Genuinely a fantastic film. This is one of the better ones out there from around this time. And we got the special features that were on the previous release, but nothing on here is new. And that Mill Creek release is not super old. So it's really odd how they seem to have picked up a handful of titles that were just recently released by Mill Creek. And some of them are less than like 2.5 years old, and they're already getting brand new releases. I'm very curious as to why or what they think they're getting out of that. Good film. Have you seen Eyes of Lower Mars?
Oh yeah, John Carpenter, one of his earliest writing credits, and Irvin Kershner's king of the sequels, right? The Empire Strikes Back, RoboCop 2. This is a nice little thriller. Faye Dunaway and Tommy Lee Jones are really good in it. It's pretty early in Tommy Lee Jones's career.
Very young, yeah.
This is like right after he did Rolling Thunder, I think.
Had to have been, yeah.
Which I just watched the other night. It holds up.
Nice.
Tommy Lee Jones has some of the best lines. I'm going to go kill a lot of people. So yeah, Eyes of Lower Mars. I don't think I'll be upgrading my copy, but I might watch it again here. Now that it's getting re-released.
Highly recommend this movie is basically what we're getting at. Yet another one, but this is another interesting one where we get some new special features. Happy Birthday to Me is getting a release from Kino on October 18th, and it's one of the most iconic imageries from a film cover of all time. I swear this poster was basically required to be in every video store for like 5 years. That was in the contract or something. Dude says, Kino and this Mill Creek thing is making me wonder if I should keep waiting on Renegades. I haven't picked it up yet. That's a good question. This gets a new interview with actress Tracy E. Bergman and a new audio commentary by co-screenwriter Timothy Bond, moderated by Daniel Creamer, and not a whole lot else on here. Happy Birthday to Me. It's not what I love. It's fun. What do you think of Happy Birthday to Me?
Well, as a J. Lee Thompson completist, you can't go through his whole career without making a pit stop with late Charles Bronson and Happy Birthday to Me. It's not my favorite movie in the world, not my favorite slasher, but I recall enjoying it. And it's I would say it's kind of indifferently made. You know, Glenn Ford doesn't look too happy to be there.
That's true.
But you know, we were talking about Giallos and the Jolly and the formula and kind of picking out interesting bits from the Drek. You know, Happy Birthday. Yeah, J. Lee Thompson is an underrated director. He's fantastic, and even the late Charles Bronson movies that have some problematic politics are taut action movies and get the most out of the budgets. Happy Birthday to me though is you know, it's kind of a middling slasher movie. If you like slasher movies, this is going to be a fun watch for you. It's not going to like convert anybody to the genre though, I don't think. But the poster,
iconic. I swear this movie has had gosh, so many releases on every format. This is like one of the most released movies, at least it feels like. Next up, speaking of AGFA, we just spoke on them. Smut Without Smut Volume 1 is coming from 101 Films UK as part of their AGFA partnership. Now, one of the reasons that this might be interesting is that this was a fully limited release in the US. So the title is a print, which means if you want these two titles, this is going to be the cheapest way to get these. And I believe in the US, it's fully gone out of print. You're not able to get this unless you're getting it secondhand. Again, this is literally the X-rated genre movies with the X-rated bits removed. These are interesting. And then they have the Smut Without Smut versions and the uncut versions both included if you want to see everything on there.
So with and without smut.
Yes.
Okay.
They also have the commentary track on Things to Come with the AGFA team, which is one of the better listens because they put a lot of love into stuff like this. So it's really nice to hear from the people that are restoring this and putting it out what they think of the film.
I missed the Smut Without Smut went out of print, so this will be a good chance for me to check these out.
Definitely. And then another AGFA title coming out from 101 Films in the UK is Scary Tales, which I got to be honest is one of my favorite AGFA releases. I think that this is one of their more fun titles. I will really point out they've got this notice here. This movie was shot on VHS and edited on tape, and it definitely shows. It's not the highest quality. But it is a little anthology film, and it's fun. And then on top of that, they've got the commentary track with the director on here. There's a demo version, which is really interesting. They've got vintage TV promo appearances with the director, which I watched on the AGFA disc here from the US, and it's hilarious seeing these guys on like a public access show with an actual news team, and really interesting take on it. And then there's a bonus movie on here from 1994 called Darkest Soul, plus early horror shorts from the director. This is one of those discs that just has everything encapsulated on this to make this a giant package for everybody that purchases it. Definitely recommended from me. Have you seen Scary Tales yet?
No, it looks really cool. I saw that, I can't remember the label now, but they had announced a limited edition of Mazes and Monsters, you know, the made-for-TV Dungeons and Dragons satanic scare movie with young Tom Hanks.
Yep, Plumeria Pictures.
Yeah, that's what it is. That might make a good double feature with this. Although actually, Darkest Soul might make a good double feature with it. Mazes and Monsters isn't very good.
I mean, Scary Tales is certainly not the highest quality either, but it's certainly fun and a nice little snapshot into that time. 1993 was a wild time for shot on tape stuff.
For sure.
Then Second Sight has announced their next limited edition title. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but we got the beauty shots here and the date and all that. So you can pre-order this now from Second Sight, and I'm only seeing now that we don't have an actual release date on there. Let me see what they say on their website. This is coming on September 26th from Second Sight. This is a fairly new film. This is from 2021. A brutal enforcer returns home after a 10-year absence to embark on a gruesome quest for vengeance against the crime family that kidnapped his son and left him for dead. Now, everybody that I've heard that have seen this film seems to really love it and think it's one of the better modern crime films, and somehow I've never seen it. I never even heard of it before they announced it. I just completely missed out on this one. Have you seen this one?
No, but when I saw the announcement for this release, I got kind of excited because this, again, like possession movies, this is a subgenre of action and sci-fi Western movies that I don't know. I just get into that long simmering revenge film. I'm excited about that. Packaging looks great, really cool.
Yeah. Nice art on the cover of this one. Again, lots of stuff. Second Sight always does great with these. They've got audio commentary with the writer and director and some actors, new interview with the director, an interview with the producer, and then an interview with another one of the producers. Then, of course, their limited edition will have that big hard box set with the softcover book on the inside with new essays from Andrew Graves, Elena Lazick, and Megan Navarro, plus the 6 collector's art cards you see there. It is currently available to pre-order, and it's relatively cheap, I gotta be honest, $24.99 British pounds. That's not that bad. And finally, coming on October 11th from Kino, we get Blue Iguana from 1988. Again, I feel like I'm just saying this a lot tonight. This is one that I somehow have not seen before. We've got a decent cast on here with somebody named Dean Stockwell, some people may have heard of. Jessica Harper from Suspiria is in this. We've got Flea in this. Colorful 80s neo-noir. Hilarious spoof that's part mystery, part thriller, and all fun. And on top of that, Dylan McDermott is in this. He stars as Vince Holloway, a poor excuse for a bounty hunter with a problem. The people he tries to bring back alive keep winding up dead. And in the bounty biz, no pulse means no paycheck. So Vince accepts a high-risk offer from the IRS to recover $20 million from a crooked bank in the sleepy little town of Diablo, Mexico. Once Vince hits Diablo, he discovers a notorious bar called the Blue Iguana. It's loaded with thugs, killers, smugglers, and evil women. Vince feels right at home, but he'd feel more like making a run for it if he knew what awaits him. This has a trailer on it, and that is it. Here is the inner art that they're also going to be using, and that comes on October 11th.
Wow, I've never seen this one. This is Flea halfway between Suburbia and the Big Lebowski. Or no, The Chase. I think The Chase came in between that. What a cast.
Yeah.
And I don't say this because Dean Stockwell's in it, but the premise sounds somewhat Lynchian, you know?
A bit, yeah.
So
kind of Wild at Heartish.
Yeah. Oh, let's check this out. I know nothing.
This one certainly looks fun to me. And again, I'll throw out what Stan says right there. Kino Lorber is just doing it up right. They seem to always do. I mean, putting out like 5 or 6 titles seemingly a week, you kind of have to do a lot at a time. Christian, I barely beat you there. I just threw out Wild at Heart. Good job. As we always do, let's go over what is coming out next week on disc, just in case you forgot. And then we will go over a fairly quick Q&A time with Will, if anybody has anything else from the video. So next Tuesday, we are getting Heat on 4K, which seemingly has some people saying that it's too dark on the 4K. But I got to wonder how much of that is up to people using either poor screens on their TV or not using great equipment. Too many people are using like a PS5 to play 4K films, or Xbox One X or whatever. You got to do it right if you really want the highest picture quality on these. We're getting Event Horizon in 4K. Both of those are studio discs, of course. Crimes of the Future finally comes out next Tuesday. That got a mention earlier from us. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 4K. My kids have been dying for that for months. Men from A24, and Alex Garland is the director on that one. That's finally getting the blue release. I'm not going to mention Doom in 4K. We got from Paramount Presents Back to the Beach, which a lot of people seem to be waiting on. Flying Guillotine 2 from 88 Films. A lot of people getting that one in already. Same with Dr. Lamb from Unearthed Films. We got some reviews popping up on that one finally. From The Film Detective, Battle of the Worlds from 1961. The next Code Red title, Made in Sweden with Christina Lindberg. That's kind of a big one for a lot of people. That one's finally getting released. Down to Earth with Chris Rock. That's one I remember a lot of people loving back then. Vivo, I saw this one earlier this year. Actually, not that bad. I've got kids, so I see a lot of these animated films. I've seen worse. State of Grace with Sean Penn and Ed Harris and Gary Oldman is getting its release. LA Age Jabber, I mentioned that one earlier. That is coming out from Visual Vengeance. Famous TNA 2 with Darcy the Mail Girl from The Last Drive-In. That is Full Moon putting that one out, and that seems to be selling like gangbusters for a lot of retailers right now.
I'll tell you why. In addition to the lovely and talented Darcy, Jacqueline Lavelle, the pride of Full Moon Video.
Amen to that. From Kino, we're getting, I believe these are both Kino, Little Man, What Now, and Next Time We Love. This one, Next Time We Love, has James Stewart in it. And then I think we're getting some re-releases, which is why Murder Made Easy. This is from Scream Team releasing. I think that's getting a re-release. Yellow Brick Road. I can't remember who put that one out, but I've heard some people say that's a decent one. I need to check that one out. And that's the bulk of them as far as I remember. I apologize. I forgot Troma was releasing their version of Death by Temptation. Yeah, that is what next week looks like. So, now that we are done with announcements and what's coming out next week, any questions for Will on Tobe Hooper, on our discussion that we released last week, or anything else? And as you type those out, Will, I think you got some stuff to talk about that's coming up soon. You want to share with the class what's going on in your world?
Well, I'm kind of excited. Tomorrow I'm going to be recording a podcast, Cinema Death Cult, with Adam Bulger. We're going to talk about Wes Craven's television films, which I'm pretty excited about. I'm working on a project about writing about those films. Summer of Fear, Chiller, Invitation to Hell, Case Busters, and the unreleased Night Visions. I think that's all of them. And so I'm excited about that. So that'll be coming out into the podcast universe in a week or so, and hopefully that bit of writing will be coming out next year. Let's see. Oh yeah, I was mentioning to you before we got started. There's a new book coming out around Christmas about Tod Browning. I'm really excited to be part of. Did some research on his film Devil. Big Tod Browning guy. If anybody who's into classic macabre and horror, I hope is too. Yeah, so those are some things that I'm working on, excited about. Really looking forward to seeing how people respond to the I'm Dangerous Tonight Blu-ray, which I should mention Stan Geezy is also a part of. He was a videographer on the film, and there he is, and contributed a lot of amazing behind-the-scenes footage of Tobe Hooper directing and the cast and crew working. So there's my little promotional reel.
As I said last time, all the links for Will are in the description below, where to follow him, where to get some of the books that he's helped edit. And then on top of that, the I'm Dangerous Tonight Blu-ray, available now pretty much everywhere. Kino Lorber has distribution everywhere, so make sure you check that out. Tobe Hooper, made for TV film. We got our first question for you. What movie do you want to see Vinegar Syndrome put out the most?
Well, I think they're already going to answer that question with Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, but I don't want to sound like a pervert. But the Picorama label is the only place I could think of that would release that could release the that could. You're welcome, Stan. The Picorama label is the only place that I think could potentially release Wes Craven's pornographic film. Wes Craven directed a film under the nom de plume Abe Snake called, was several titles, but I think Angela is the Fireworks Woman is the most common one. And he did that between, did he do it right? You know, he did it right before, between Last House on the Left and Hills Have Eyes. And the film features a lot of the themes about family and the kind of rot of the American middle class that you see in his well-known movies. So I'd love to. That'd probably be the one. I actually did a 2-hour long interview on Christian's Hobby Blog, in which we went through about 40 different films we wanted to see released in high definition. So
nice.
If you want to kill some time, that'd be worth checking out too.
The Wes Craven porn film that he just brought up, that has been guessed by a lot of people as coming from Vinegar Syndrome with some of the hints that they've put out previously, and it's never came to fruition. I would love to see that. It would be nice just as a, hey, let's get all of, you know, this incredible director's films out there. It would be really nice to see overall.
Yeah, you know, the little feature on the Vinegar Syndrome website where they let you suggest a movie. Every 6 or 8 months or so, I'll have just like one too many glasses of wine, and I'll get on there and I'll say, Angela's the Fireworks Woman. I'll type it in, and then the next question is, do you have any idea where the film elements are? Or do you have any access to them? And I'm like, no, I don't. I'm asking you to do all the work.
Please do it all. In your classes, do you talk about Hitchcock a lot? A kind of cliche for a film teacher, but he was obviously a groundbreaking filmmaker, and the reason that Birds 2 is such an insult to film lovers.
Is everybody cool with Gus Van Sant's Psycho, though? Are we cool with that?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. I actually don't teach Hitchcock a lot, just because the older, more established, tenured professors tend to focus on the canon, right, filmmakers. But I usually, when I teach Hitchcock, I usually do a lesser known film, like The Lady Vanishes is one I recently did. I'm a big fan of Frenzy, so I try to slip that one in there. Sabotage. So I tend to leave the most well-known titles to other faculty, and you know, my tendency is always to show the stuff that they're not going to see anywhere else.
Right.
Obviously, when I teach my cult films course, that's specifically what it's for. But when I teach, you know, even film appreciation, and my job is to teach basic film technique, film form, I can show Citizen Kane, and I often do, but I can also show The Hitchhiker by Ida Lupino. I can show Pale Blood, which I'm going to show in October for Halloween now. So always try to get stuff off the beaten path. But I love Hitchcock. I've got 50 some of his films in my collection.
Jeff says Lifeboat is underlooked. I think it definitely is. I think that's got a release from Kino, if I remember right. And then Christian says, watch Saboteur by Hitchcock recently and loved it.
Saboteur is good, but you also have to see Sabotage. It's two different ones.
Speaking of Christian, he says, who's a cult director that should have more exposure by these labels?
More exposure. Gosh,
asking the tough questions.
That is a tough one. Well, now that Jeff Canoe is getting his day in court, we can try to highlight some others. I'm gonna have to think about that question for a second, actually, because I would like to see some directors who have smaller filmographies that haven't been explored, like Deborah Brock, who did Slumber Party Massacre 2. She also did Rock and Roll High School Forever, which needs a good release because that movie's bonkers. So I'd like to see a little love over there. Gosh. Well, they got Al Adamson covered. Ted Michaels. We need some more Ted Michaels films released in high definition. There was a great documentary, The Wild World of Ted Michaels, out like 10 years ago. But most of his stuff is still only available on DVD. Who puts out the Corpse Grinders? Is that Vinegar Syndrome? Yeah, Vinegar Syndrome.
So, yeah.
So at least have that.
Is there anywhere we can find your list of favorite films?
I don't have a list.
Any sort of like blog or anything like that you can point people to?
You know, I really need to do that. I was telling you last time we talked. I've just recently got a Twitter. I've stayed largely off the internet. I technically have a Letterboxd account. I just haven't really done anything with it. I'm going to have to do that soon. I'm pretty sure that's like standard issue for professors now. You have to have a website to hawk your wares and promote your work. So coming soon. But shows like this, I pretty much say all I have to say.
Here's a good one. Favorite film book of all time?
American Twilight, the cinema of Tobe Hooper. That's a tough one too. I'm not trying to be difficult with the answer, but it really kind of depends on the sort of subgenre film book. The book that really got me into film studies was David Scull and Elias Savada's Dark Carnival, the biography of Tod Browning. But I've been very fortunate to be a student of and now a friend to David A. Cook, who wrote A History of Narrative Film, which is probably the best single volume, I think, history book. It's a pretty good read too. It's about 800 pages, so it's not going to be in one sitting or anything. I really like the work of Gwendolyn Audrey Foster. She writes a lot of really great analyses and reclamations of underseen films, especially by women directors of color. Wheeler Winston Dixon, who's written like 100 books. They're all really good. Christopher Sherritt, who's a big influence on me. This is just going to keep going, so I'll stop there. But one last one I really like is Gary Rhodes. He writes a lot of great stuff. Really, his research is really deep dives into the archives. He goes through drafts of scripts, noting every change. He finds all of the memos and really pieces together how films got made. He's the authoritative biographer of Bela Lugosi. He's written 4 or 5 books on Lugosi. Wow. All right, I'll stop there.
Film books are always difficult for me to read because I end up taking notes and just want to go deep dive into 34 different movies before starting into the next chapter.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you highlight every sentence.
Definitely. Video Store says, have you seen The Art of Dying? And if so, why didn't it win Best Picture?
I've not seen The Art of Dying yet. Ever since I had kids, I've started lagging about 5 or 6 years behind films as they get released.
Yep.
So, but I'll put that to the top of my queue, and as soon as I see it, I will answer that question.
Here's a fun one.
Wait, what won Best Picture?
What year was that?
I don't even know.
Thoughts on The Mangler? It's one of the few films where I actually fell asleep in the theater.
Stan's gonna come for you. The Mangler is definitely not Tobe Hooper's best movie, but it's one that I think rewards rewatching. It's a real shame that was his last theatrical release. I think that the new Shout Factory release, and I think Arrow just did a UK release that's got a video essay by Scout Tafoya, who is the most effusive champion of that film I've ever met. I think when you get to revisit it and kind of think about it in context of his other films, there, the Mangler improves. I think a lot of it is the concept kind of throws people off, like it's a haunted laundromat, but it's not. It's not that. It's the machinery that grinds the working class to gristle.
Exactly.
It's really a very gooey metaphor for in the book American Twilight, we have 2 essays on the Mangler. It's the only film that gets 2 essays, and one analyzes it as there's a lot of different things. I'm boiling it down, simplifying. One analyzes it as a metaphor for the Hollywood machinery, and then another more broadly capitalism in general. So I'd recommend getting the book and then rewatching the Mangler.
As obtuse of a question this is, do you think there is a clear Tobe Hooper, like, objectively best made film and worst made film?
I mean, it's tempting to say to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is the best made film because it's just so perfectly formed, Right. But certainly Hooper had higher budgets after, not much higher, but higher budgets after that you could make the argument that on a technical level, other films are more accomplished. Tobe Hooper's worst film? I mean, for me, probably Eggshells is the least entertaining. Like, if I'm going to look at, his 20-some, 30-some filmography, that's
right.
That's not the first one I'm going to choose. But even it's pretty well. He was a super talented guy on a technical level, and the people he collaborated with were just top notch. He didn't work with a lot of shitty editors or cinematographers. So I don't know. I'd have to think on that one as well. I'll say for now, Eggshells is probably my least favorite, and Chainsaw 2 is just my, like, growing up was always my favorite. So I'll say that.
Let's go for a fun one, and then we'll close it out with a pretty heavy question here. First off, what is the best barbecue? And I'll say there's not necessarily a right answer, but there's definitely a wrong answer.
Well, so I'm from North Carolina, and we make it a certain way that might not appeal to you.
As long as the answer is not Texas, I'm fine with that.
Well, no, it's not Texas. Got a pretty good barbecue place right here in Greensboro called Stamey's Barbecue. I like it. But we got a spice and vinegar style to the barbecue here. Before COVID, there was a nice festival that would come through the Winston-Salem area that I used to go to. Haven't been since. I think it's reopened. But yeah, I'm gonna say Stamey's Barbecue right here in Greensboro.
Nice. All right, here it is. Why is film academia important, and what can it give us that the internet cannot?
That's a really good question, because I think Sam Deegan was talking about this a little bit in her interview a couple weeks ago. There's definitely a large faction of academia that's kind of closed off. You can interpret it as elitist or just a community of people that have developed a type of jargon that just won't admit anybody else. And I think, you can read a lot of academic film books and find them just impenetrable. Same for literature in that way. Some of the best film criticism and film journalism I've ever read has been, what we'd call amateur, fan scholars, people who are just really interested in it and do it as a hobby. Some of the best YouTube shows I've seen are done by people in their spare time on their own time. So to that part of the question, what can academia give people that the internet can't? I would say not a lot, but one thing that film academia can give, the first, in if you go to school for this sort of thing, you get a concentrated time and opportunity to really expand your range and draw from people who have spent their lives doing this kind of research and working hard to archive and preserve films, and also to contextualize them in the history. And people can do that on their own as well, but the university gives a kind of concentrated place, an archive, a library, and a collection of talent that that can be accessible for the students who are there. In publishing, and this is a good and a bad thing. There's in academic publishing, you have to go through a lot of gatekeepers.
That's
And
true.
so one thing you can be sure of is that, if you look at a book like American Twilight, it's written in a way that's accessible. You do not have to be a film scholar to understand it. It's pretty much jargon free. But you also know it's gone through the ringer, right? Experts in the field have read it, critiqued it. We've had to respond to those criticisms and
Tore it apart.
work it apart. And that part of the gatekeeping, I think, is really valuable. As opposed to books that don't go through that process, that can be a little bit sloppier in their research. On the other hand, a lot of books don't make it through the gateway because there's some kind of resistance to the subject matter, or there's a radical approach that the entrenched minds just don't get. And so this is a really long answer that basically says both and are important. And there are a lot of people, I don't want to say that I'm in any way special, because there are a lot of people like me who kind of straddle the lines, if you want to have
Right.
that lovely image of straddling, who work in academia and kind of can speak that language, but are really like, I'm not a filmmaker. That's not part of my talent, but I am a pretty good writer, and I'm passionate about film, and I want to be an archivist and an advocate for film that reaches as wide an audience as possible. And I think a lot of academics, especially in this generation and younger generations, are that. A lot of film journalists are that. Internet critics, the few remaining print critics are that. So, yeah, I think what academics have to offer is a certain talent pool and a certain depth of research that hopefully they make available to the wider public.
I'd agree there. I mean, that accessibility is really one of the most important things, and that leads to the overall idea of film in general when we're talking about archiving all of these works. And that's why these extra features that we get on physical media is so important, because we get some of the voices that you will not be able to have if you just stick to a streaming method where there's no special features. You get access to families that were affected by these films. You get access to a producer from a film from 50 years ago that remembers everything about it and can share everything. I mean, the fact that we have Franco Nero interviewed in 2018 talking about Django made 52 years prior, and he can literally remember day-to-day stories. It is wild how much context we have lost with so much of this, and I just hope we never stop archiving some of this.
Yeah. Film is one of the youngest art forms, but it's also one of the art forms most in need of preservation, and quickly, right? As people do pass on. I recently listened to a podcast about some Warner Archive titles, and they just upgraded to Blu-ray the Errol Flynn movie, The Adventures of Don Juan, directed by Vincent Sherman, and they were able to port over audio commentary that Sherman did before he passed away. Oh, it's fantastic. Great stories.
As awful as this whole situation is, we got to end it with talking about this for the final time. What is with the decades-long rumors about Spielberg directing Poltergeist?
Yeah, what is with that? Well, there's a nice piece about that in the book, and let's see, Chris Woofter and I were on Cinema Death Cult podcast addressing it, and then in the interview with Ryan last week, we addressed it. I'm going to go with, to sum it up, Joe Bob Briggs pointed out that one thing that Tobe Hooper was never good at was glad handing and schmoozing and playing the game. And for whatever reason, a couple folks who were potentially on the set, spread that rumor as Spielberg, who was a collaborative producer and co-writer of the film with Hooper, was setting up a second unit shot. But as we were saying in the interview last week, if you watch Spielberg's movies and you watch Hooper's movies and then you watch Poltergeist, the only reason Poltergeist might look a little bit like a Spielberg movie is because of the money.
Yep.
The themes, the sense of humor, the darkness, the scares, those are all in the style of Hooper. And Hooper and Spielberg worked together several times after that. Amazing Stories, Taken, and so on. So it wasn't. I think that this rumor definitely caused problems between them, but not problems that were left totally unresolved. From all accounts, and I'll credit Stan Geezy for his insight because he knew Hooper more than slightly, actually, fairly well, and friends with Hooper's son, Tony. Tobe Hooper was kind of a reclusive guy, retiring guy, put his energy into communication on the set, and then after that kind of went off to his own devices. Whereas Spielberg, and this is no knock on Spielberg, is much more of a personality, big man.
Very much so.
But, watch the films, and it's a dumb rumor. It really is.
I would agree there. If you enjoy conversations like this is my one time tonight that I will bring up. Not that any of us are educators or anything like that, but over on our Patreon, which I will say thank you to all of our patrons now, including our newest one, Kevin Smith, on there. We have a lot of conversations about stuff just like we've been talking about all day over in our Discord, and the ability to just share everybody having these different opinions and analyzing films and talking about quality of films and releases and just different focuses and cycles in the hobby. It's a really great place. If you are curious about that, the link for the Patreon is in the description below. And the only thing to say tonight, Will, just thank you so much for your time. I really hope everybody enjoyed this. There's so much education to pass along, and to get free access like this to an educator is just priceless. So thank you.
Oh man, happy to be here. Hey, I'll throw out a rumor for you. Who directed Jaws? Because I have on credible authority that Steven Spielberg couldn't figure out how to make it work without showing the shark, and stomped off the set, and the producer had to finish it. So spread that around the internet.
Video Store says, funny how nobody mentions how Hooper directed 80% of Saving Private Ryan.
There you go. Let's get these going.
Oh man, everybody, thanks for watching tonight. I know it's been a long show, from this time from two collectors to all of you. Hope you have a good night. We'll see you next Thursday. More videos coming out this week from the Disconnect.